it's the start of a new energy that comes into our planetary systems. So on that day, we will be formally starting our institute. And the reason for this institute is very simple, that there is a need, there is a big gap, particularly in the Ayurveda and the Ayush sector, and that awareness for clinical practice and good clinical practice. And we haven't, our students are not familiar, the people who should be most active and understand all this are not familiar with this whole process. So this institute will fill that gap, a very prominent gap. And this institute hopefully will also provide a base for training and inviting students from any other part of the world. Understanding clinical practice is a big need. And that need is also because it gives confidence to everybody involved about how a study has been conducted and what are the rules. So setting the baseline, it is like a simple education process as far as this institute is concerned. And we hope that gap will be filled as soon as we start our activities. Now, to briefly introduce you to what GCP and the significance of GCP, I share my screen in a few slides here. As always, I feel much easier if I put a few slides on the screen and I can talk to the slides. And the first slide I have is a big network that anybody can access. I hope my Parikshitji, I hope my screen is visible to you. Agya ji screen?
Yes, sir, visible, sir. It's visible.
Yeah, this is called the Good Clinical Practice Network. And you can access this network at this website. And shown here is the page about our mission. When I look to this, the aim and scope of activities, it highlights it very nicely that on a daily basis, the latest tendencies in clinical research in all therapeutic fields will be offered here. We work with daily insights for patients and professionals. Now, it is a very, sometimes I look at this and it becomes a very restrictive kind of scenario they are presenting. It says the mission of clinical practice is, first of all, we provide patients around the world with latest updates on advances in clinical research in different therapeutic areas. So they're only talking about therapeutic areas. They're not talking about the three other areas that Ayush systems and Ayurveda in particular talks about. It doesn't talk about disease prevention. It doesn't talk about health maintenance. It doesn't talk about health promotion. So that is something where we can also do research. I wouldn't call it clinical research, but it's a new way of looking at health. And the second thing, what it says is create a bi-directional connection between all stakeholders in clinical research. So all of that is very good. And if I step back a little bit, I want to take you into who is driving this storm-driven, as Pawanji commented very casually and with a little bit of realism, sarcasm, that the pharmaceutical industry is the one driving these kind of initiatives. And as an industry, it employs a lot of people. Here, shown here is the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations. And it shows here, the graph here is about the number of people employed in this industry. It's about the number of people employed in this industry. So there are predicted about 1 million people who are employed in this industry right now directly. And there are about 2,000 pharmaceutical companies operating in Europe, 33 countries, and all these details. So there is a membership, there is a group of people involved in this. And whatever we might say, there are good lessons for all of us to learn from, particularly for the Ayush systems, by engaging with these activities and learning. And hopefully also employment generation. The pharmaceutical industry says we have to protect our jobs here in Europe. And when we come into India in particular, and I want to put an India emphasis on this, our country is very special. almost 1.3, tending towards 1.5 billion people. And the data here shown from the Food and Agriculture Organization is that we have a large part of the world's population, is located in 2.4% of the world's land area. So a large number of people in a small amount of land, and many other aspects that we have to take into account in terms of healthcare for our people. Now, the next few slides I highlight here is to show you a discussion I had yesterday with some farmers in this part of the National Capital Region. This, you can see two villages here, Bhaktavarpur and Sungarpur. These are two villages on the banks of the Yamuna. If I zoom out a little bit from here, you will see this location. Now, these two villages are very important because they are located within the state of Delhi. You see, Bhaktavarpur is here. The Delhi
is not visible.
Okay, screen is not visible. Okay, we have the same problem with our WebEx. Please stop me, Parikshit, when the screen is not moving. It's unfortunate that this is...
Sir, from my side, I am able to see the screen. It's no problem, sir. The screen is visible.
Okay, I'll start. I'll just put this up once again. I hope the screen is visible now. So I was saying, on this slide, I was saying, in a very small amount of the land area of the world, 2.4%, under 2.5% of the world's land area, we have a lot of people here. And I put this, please stop me if the screen is not changing. This is Bhaktavarpur here, and the river Yamuna. On the east of it is Uttar Pradesh, this is Delhi state, and on the north of it is Haryana. I zoom out a little bit just to give you an idea of the location of the land. Now, here is Kundali and all of the areas that you can see on Google Map. I highlight this because this is our Delhi area, and this village is located somewhere here in this part of it. This is the Kundali Manasar Palwal, the expressway, the outer ring road of New Delhi. Located in a wider circumference around here is the National Capital Region. This region of India will have about 75 to 80 million people in a few years' time, along with the satellite towns. Now, the reason why I highlighted this area yesterday is while I was talking to the farmers here in Sungarpur and Bhaktavarpur, one issue came up, and I want to connect this one issue with clinical trials. I asked them, what is the most prominent health difficulty you have in this farming community? I went to this place online, of course. We were discussing farming here, and farming here is going organic. Together with the Mahindra group, there are a lot of people working here to move away from pesticide-based farming to organic farming. So the farming community is very important. The health of the farming community is very important because these are the kind of people who will take care of the health of the National Capital Region. So the first comment that was made is that we have an incredible amount of diabetes in our land. All these villages have a very, very high incidence of diabetes. This is despite the fact that there are these kind of very prominent, I think this is one of our famous test cricketers who has a cricket academy here. But the people of the village, Pala village, Bhaktavarpur, and all these villages have huge incidence of diabetes. So when we extend to any of the outlying villages here into Uttar Pradesh or into Rajasthan here further south, into Haryana, this is a big problem here. Now, I stopped sharing my screen, and I just want to raise that one point here, which is what can we do for these kind of issues? These are ground reality. These are problems on the ground. These are problems that will be in any of the many villages across India, 670,000 villages. What is it that we can do? Now, the first thought that came to me yesterday was In our Ayurved Shastra, we have a very simple formulation which has Amlaki and Haridra. You know, the Nisha Amlaki is a formulation that we have. We keep saying it is good for diabetes. It can manage diabetes. Yes, on the clinical side, we can understand. There are people there who can understand. There are dietary aspects that cause complications. Yes, we can follow that also. But how can we bring such an issue together? You know, how can we bring something, good clinical practice, understanding clinical trials, the best of what the pharmaceutical industry, their platform is enabling, what we can teach our students, what we can bring into this whole discussion from the best of Ayurvedic procedures. So if I look at the bank of the Yamuna it is a very polluted river. By the time it reaches Delhi and it flows further down towards Mathura, Agra, this river is one of the most polluted rivers. So we have many, many issues that come together that need to be addressed here. And how can we start to combine all of these possibilities, the best of clinical practice, the best of knowledge networks that are around the world, the best of Ayurveda that we have. Bishnupriya ji is here with us, and she was very right in saying the other day that our colleges, our institutions, our academic institutions and research institutes must connect with these kind of real problems. I therefore feel that the initiative that we have taken here, if we can keep the bigger picture in mind and address all of these issues, then we will be making a big contribution. We'll be making big contribution not only for the global community, but in terms of diabetes, metabolic diseases, but also for rural India, and also giving a new direction in which our students can really connect with day-to-day problems. In one of our earlier presentations, our colleague, Sanskrit colleague from Kochi, he made a very, very strong call saying, our students must connect with these rural issues, and taking the best of Ayurvedic knowledge that Bishnupriya ji is always talking to us about, connect with those rural needs, at the same time have a deep learning and understanding of what is good clinical practice, how to design experiments, how to do these things. So I feel we are sitting on a huge opportunity with this new initiative that we've started, and together with the collection of senior academics and talented clinicians and people like Parikshit ji who have generations of Ayurveda in their family. And I think we can make a big change in that global narrative, the global narrative that is going on, and the start of the fifth industrial revolution that the whole world is starting to look towards, where information will be shared, where information of this kind will be shared. So I feel excited that we are at the start of a very, very important phase in human progress. And I'm delighted that so many people, experts, scholars, and so many talented people are here with us. And I hope as we take our first steps and as we start to establish our courses and as we grow into this area, we will not disappoint anybody. And young students will be excited to join our courses, not only students from India, but from the Asian region and from around the world to come and learn with us. So, Pawanji and Parikshitji, thank you so much for permitting me these few minutes to share my thoughts. I leave it to you, Parikshitji, to follow on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for delivering a nice outline of the GCP necessity and with an example from India only. We are very much thankful that you gave us your blessings, and hopefully we'll be doing much more works on the GCP aspect, not only in the educational field or training or skill development field, but in a practical field also. because this is the necessity, since as researchers we are well versed in the theoretical part, but the most important is the practical aspect, and that is the necessity, that how we learn practically that the ways and to be properly handling a research project and abiding the guidelines of the GCP. Thank you, sir. Once again, I will like to thank you for your, and now I would like to invite Dr. Bishnupriya Mohanty ji. Madam is professor, and she has a vast knowledge of research and education. And once again, I would like to invite Bishnupriya Madam to deliver her speech and enlighten us regarding the necessities of GCP. Madam, are you there, please? Bishnupriya Madam, are you there? She's there. Bishnupriya Madam, please unmute yourself, and Madam, are you there? Madam, I have already introduced. Bishnupriya Madam, are you here? Madam, you are unmuted, but no sound is coming. Madam, I think your internet connection is not proper. That's why we cannot hear you.
Parikshit ji, we can't hear, we cannot hear Bishnupriya ji. Maybe we should go to the next speaker and see if we can reconnect with Bishnupriya ji. Bishnupriya ji, आपका आवाज नहीं आ रहा जी.
हेलो.
हाँ जी, आपका आवाज थोड़ा कट रहा.
Madam, you are not audible.
If you refresh or reconnect then maybe that will resolve the problem. Parikshit ji, I suggest if Bishnupriya ji reconnects, it might solve that transmission error.
Okay, sir, I am communicating to her.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, join over. Welcome, madam, again.
Ramadas ji, namaskaram.
Is it okay now?
Much better.
Good, fine.
Yes.
Much better. Thank you. Namaskaram. Namaste. Namaste ji. Namaste. Very much better.
Yes, sir. Namaste, namaste. Is it my turn to speak?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am, you are audible, but little bit the sound is low. Can you speak up?
Is it fine now?
Yes, madam, it's audible.
Okay,
Yes,
can I continue?
I think from your side, the internet connection is not proper. So you can start speaking with your video off also.
Yes.
Madam, please start your speech, madam.
Yeah, my screen is visible now.
No, ma'am, your screen is not visible.
Is it fine now?
not yet.
Yes.
Not yet.
No, ma'am, it is not visible. Let's wait. I think it will come. No, ma'am, your screen is not visible. Yes, madam, your
Is
screen
it
is
coming
visible
now?
now. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, it is
Good, thank
visible.
you. Yes, yes. So my namaste to all. I have created a lot of problem. Anyhow, so thank you for giving me this opportunity to share the idea how we can continue the good clinical practice. Of course, the scenario we all know, we understood that with all sorts of facilities, but still we are facing health issues. Some are related to the people's consciousness or people awareness, people's understanding about the health educations and all, and maximum percentage our medical systems is related. That's I may go wrong about all of your understandings, but whatever the observations around to us, these scenario are coming in front of us, or we're coming across so many experiences, what to be controlled or what are going against to the classical informations, the clinical experiences, what olden days research adopted, and they shown their experimentations to that way, and what exactly we are getting in our day-to-day practice. So the whole motto of today presentations is how we can make more consciousness or value addition to the classical references as such can be taken into our practice, our day-to-day practice. So it may need the numbers of data, but the references, analysis of references, changing into the understandable domain, lacking is there. As just sir has told that we are trying to learn about the black hole theory, but we hardly understood the problems in Yamuna. Or today's education systems, especially the medical education systems, where the basic concepts of math, physics, chemistry has not utilized as such. It is available in engineering, very very contrast subject. So we may know many things about the space and all, but we hardly understands a small problem of choke in our tube light in our house. We take the help of electricians, so we can do these small things, and the same problems also happening to the health educations. We are doing big things, but we hardly understood small perceptions or transformations of the problem of the patient into a small language of medical uh, concept can help to a patient more. One example I should take, एक आदमी लंगड़ा होके जा रहा है, there are some experts, you know, one person is speaking, he is from fracture management, that he is having a fracture. Another person is speaking like he is already have some problem like polio. It is the expert's mind sharing the problem of the patient, but exactly the situation is not like so. So a long time these things are going on in the clinical practice. So it is not accidentally a problem has come, and we are sitting together to fix the good clinical practice. The storm itself is showing those window, or we should think that there are many windows where good is not going, or everything is not good. So what are the things we have to think? That is our today's concept. What is GCP that we all know, starting from the patient, the consumer, going through the each and every part of medical systems, that is like starting from nurse to the doctor, the ward boy, the medicines, the medicine preparations, all way, because it is not the any part of research will go beyond to the GCP, because all part of research reflected through a good clinical practice. If it is not applicable in the clinical practice, that things is not related to us. Because basically we are the doctor. So research in manuscript, research in drug, research in the fundamental aspect, research in basic principles, research in laboratory practice, all needed to be connected to the good clinical practice. And unless and until these practices will not communicate to the community or the society, then there is no value of research. So each and every research or the gain of research should be connected to the society. Without that, research have no value. Because we may do many big things inside the laboratory. To be connected to the library, it to be connected to the society. So that bridge somewhere lacking. So our motto is to make such bridges. How we can give a good trainings or good data to the so-called failure systems in the clinical practice, the things can be revitalized. So the standard can be maintained, that quality can be maintained. So what are the guidelines? Those guidelines are well available, as I has told, in the GCP network. Even they are in the Ayush guidelines. Even it is available in Helsinki declarations. So those protocols are well available. As I routinely speak, that we fail in our consciousness, or we have sold our soul. So कोई कान पे बजाता है तभी हमें सुनाई नहीं देता है. So we have to see the unseen fact. We have to listen the no sounds of the patient. So patient speaks many things. We don't like to listen those. The today's demand of medical systems is something else, but a practice of education and training is going in some other way. So exact treatment of getting the good clinical practice is depending upon the people's involved in the systems and their consciousness and perceptions. So it is more respectable than any other training programs going routinely with us. For example, that we have the effective alternative treatment. There we should not give placebo. Somewhere it is exactly not needed, then we can go through the placebo. So speaking every problem of patient is psychological connections. Sometimes we are ignoring to listen the complaint of patient. So it is not the one aspect of research can help us. It is the all aspects of research reflected the quality of clinical practice. So in Helsinki declarations, when it has written the set of ethical principles regarding human experimentation developed originally in 1964 for the medical community and under the World Medical Associations, that time also it has quoted that all should be depends upon the humanity. It is not just Helsinki declarations is suppressing the humanity. So without humanity, these all declarations have no value. And from these declarations, we have learned too much that how to respect the individual persons. The self-determination power of the patient could be increased. You can select or reject what to take, what not to take. So the consent form idea has comes. And sometimes this consent form is surrogate from the other peoples. If it is the patient is not actually fit and fine or strong psychologically. So they whether participate in the research or they will just say no, I'm not interested going under your clinical research. So these all instructions are well available and it was in our classics in which form, why the gap comes, and now we are trying to revitalizing those things. So few examples I have taken in my discussions. That is there is a quotations in Sutrasthan second chapter itself, Matra Kalasraya Yukta. So a Yukti as a pramana that is only available in Charak Samhita. So what is Yukti? A planning, a programming, rejoining, reconnecting. So selecting a particular medicine, applying in a particular clinical conditions, that joining is a Yukti. When it is written that the Sukra, Sonita, Garbha, Ambu, so these all four joining together, then it leads to the Garbha Sambhava Samagri. So Usma, Bayu, Kleda, Sneha, Kala, Snema, Yoga, Yukta. So that should be well connected. If they will stay in a linear line, then the things is possible. So Yukti is actually leaving an opportunity to the physicians, that the physicians' own perceptions can lead to another way of selecting a medicine, selecting a particular therapy in the different clinical conditions. As I told in another class, say Snehopagadravya. So Snehopagadravya in the sense that a patient is fit for Snehana therapy, but now because of some problems he is unable to post, or he is unable to take the leave from his work. So going to his work, because this time the era is demanding like so. So how we can be helpful to that patient? What could be the good clinical practice for that particular patient? So okay, you can go to your work, but continue this Snehopagadravya. Instead of 3 days, 7 days you can continue. So it is not Sneha Upagadravya, means Sneha nearby actions we can get. It is not like so that Sneha Dravya is unavailable, so Sneha Upagadravya should be given. He is very fit. According to Sutrasthana 16th, the Snehana, Ariha, all quality are there. But because of particular terms and conditions, he is unable. So that Yukti is there. So Yukti is nothing but a opening of window of research to achieve the good clinical practice. So here in our Ayurveda, even the 4 things are there, that is Chatuspada, but Bhisak has respected in all ground, and that Bhisak should be with all Atma quality. In the sense, with all consciousness, just for the sake of patient, he should be in the hospital, not for any other purpose. That is not a matter to speak only in the in the webinars or something else. It is the matter to understand and realize, because without which all the other 3 paths are just paralyzed. And what is going on today? आज के दुनिया में actually these things is going on. So if why? So it is told that pradhanam bhisakatratu Vigyata Sasita Chokta Pradhanam Bhisakatratu. That Bhisak is Pradhanam because he is the Vigyata, he is the knower of all knowledge. He is the Sasita, he has the power of administrations against the ward boy nurse, and he has the power to make a new formulations in the existing formulations, all the positive negatives in the formulations. Because of these all power, the Bhisak is Pradhana. And this is the basic differentiation from the Darshan Shastra. So Darshan Shastra, they are Pradhanatva has given to any other way. But GCP teaches us, GCP from the classics teaches us that all the right has given to the physicians. But now physician is working under many other pressure. The hospital, the hospital protocol is something else, and we are fixing some other way of SOP. And the whole concept of SOP is like that whatever I am doing, just I have to declare and I can do. And I will be get permitted by the accreditation group of peoples. So actually it is not like so, because the quality of Chatuspada is written some other way. So what are the area the GCP covers? If you see that a vast area starting from the consumer, that the patient, then the investigation procedures, the GLP what we speak, the medicines what we speak, the medicine preparation procedures, the collection procedure, the storage procedure, all the things. And now if I will speak, the whole industry should also come under GCP. We cannot just continue the whole concept of GCP against the industry. The beginning, we are just discussing, sir was asking that how much amount of money the industry is expecting to earn. It is all should come under one umbrella, then the clinical practice will be good. Rather, it is like Jatbad and all this Jatbad in the sense, the casteism in medicines, casteism in the clinical practice cannot help us to achieve the goal. So these all networking systems, the modules, etc., has fixed, and it is well available in our hand. Now to connect with the classical concept, I have taken these are the way how we can connect the clinical practice training who are the peoples will come under the trainings and should consult about the classical references and informations. It is now it is not just in the hand of doctor, because see, in my private practice I might be a leader, but when I am working under the institutions, that whole the peoples involved in the institutions in the hospital works to be trained with the classical references. So how they proceed, just like I left here, somebody can refers that what are the different suitability and all. So some example will take. Say there is a informations about Purva Karma. So Daridipana, Pachana, Snehana. Now what should be the good clinical practice about Purva Karma? When the Dipana should be? Now I'll take one example of say just armor. Just a person say in the essence. Armor again a very big term. Say when we are thinking about the GCP, armor that itself is a complex terms. Once I'll ask what is armor, people speak toxin. Armor is not actually toxin. Armor is not ajirna. Ajirna can be just solved, just not taking or avoiding food. But armor cannot be. Like तुहर का दाल we are taking, we are boiling, और बीच में समझा हमने बंद कर दिया, ठंडा कर दिया, आइस डाल दिया, बाद में आप कितना भी पकाओ वो पकेगा नहीं. That is armor. Means once it is its physical configurations, it's chemically somewhat deranged, it cannot be again put into the normal process of cooking. Now what ajirna is something else. Such a very basic things are going wrong in our education systems. And armor bisa, that is toxic. Means armor stuck together years, stock years by years, then it converted into amobisa, which is speak in terms of garabisa also. So that need a procedures of sodhana and all. That need a course of management. So these small things to be it should be practiced, and there can be a designing of app and all to propagate those Ayurvedic words. Everybody should speak. What happens to you? Ama. So what happens to you? Ajirna. What happens to you? Ama bisa I have. So I am coming to the sodhana. These all words should be used so commonly that the meaning or the message of the meaning will pass without any Sanskrit expert. Because it was a day when we speak all these words in our day-to-day life. So similarly, say a patient is suffering about the Rakta Pitta. So now I am entering to the subjects of Rakta Pitta. I have kept some shloka also. So when we are thinking about the disease Rakta Pitta, years together the Pitta provocated, and the patient has ignored, then slowly it is impacting to the Rakta. Now the identity has lost. So we cannot identify this is Rakta separately, this is Pitta separately. Now before the Rakta Pitta, to establish what the disease was Amal Pitta, the disease was Sotha, the disease was Sula, and it has ignored. Because it has ignored, so the good clinical practice is to catch the disease prior to its manifestations. And that's why the concept of biomarker I always introduce. So we should connect to the IIT peoples. We should develop the biomarkers prior to the manifestation of Rakta Pitta. We should catch the Rakta Pitta. That is, it is going to manifest. So there are some other concepts in the classics about the Sadhya Sadhyata. So how we can fix the categorizations of Sadhya Vyadhi and Asadhya Vyadhi, then our clinical practice can be good. So we should not take the Yapya Vyadhi as Sukha Sadhya Vyadhi, or we should not just ignore the Sukha Sadhya Vyadhi up to the level of Yapya Vyadhi. Just these references are from the classics I kept here. That is well executed in Sutrasthana 10th chapter Charak Samhita, and that way the categorizations should be understood and clarified, and that way we have to put the Arya and Anarya patient, which patient should be selected under which category, and what variety of clinical practice to continue. And the very next concept I like to put to develop or revitalize the clinical practice, that exactly what is Vyadhi. So to explain Vyadhi, that is Rogosto Dosa Vaisamyam. Many a times the Rakta Pachaka Kara, Mangsa Pachaka Kara, it looks like if we treat the Rakta Dhatu, the disease will be treated. Not like so. It is without the dosa Rakta Dhatu cannot be deranged and can able to establish a disease. So the first thing we have to catch that which dosa provocated and now the Rakta Dhatu has vitiated. So the three things to be checked first. That's why it is Prakriti. So Prakriti, dosa, and then the Vyadhi. So Vyadhi is not the final stage. Vyadhi is a presentation of a particular derangement of the dosas. That clinical practice can help us to understand these are the things we have to link. So delinking the concept of dosa bruddhi or dosa prokopa from the Vyadhi. That's why the Kaya Chikitsa people never have a link with the Nidana papers. Nidana papers don't have a link with the basic principles. So that the things has presented differently. But the same things to be understood from its grassroots. So grassroots vitiation to the dosas now presented the Raktadusti, and that's why the disease is like so. Prior to that, the disease might be like something else. So diversion of Prakriti towards the Vikruti, that journey to be connected, that journey to be understood, that journey to be defined in terms of biochemical derangement. So it is necessary to understand that our treatment, our planning of clinical practice, all are just simple regions of Arthanam Dukkanasanam, not for any other purposes. So, if at all we able to give pressure to the government, what amount of money a physician is expecting, 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 3 lakhs, just take, but do all the sake of the patient. So that freedom to come to the physicians, but the that is a corporate greed has affected to the systems in such an extent that nobody can fix that this amount of money might be sufficient to me per month, and then I can work not for any other purpose, just for the purpose of Arthanam Dukkanasanam. During the clinical specific, I should avoid different other ambiguity, so that I can, I can fix that this is the way. After 1 day, this benefit the patient will get. After 2 days, this benefit the patient will get. After 3 days, this complication can come, and because of that complications, there will be loose motions, and because of that loose motion, there will be sodhana. So these all things should be clearly justified. There should be any modern therapy during the course. Once it has once it is understood, once it is planned, the treatment protocol should be proceed like so. And the prioritizations always should be to the human value, not to the value of other things. And this is also a very observed things, that any prescription paper from any part of our country will take, that contains more than 40 to 50 numbers of medicines. It's a matter of confusions that which medicine actually work. So one goal of clinical practice should be how we can minimize the medicines. So first things, how to catch the disease before its manifestations. Second point, how we can minimize the numbers of medicines prescribed to it. And that's why it is needed to potent the medicines. So to potent the medicines, we have to apply the concept of yasya desasya jajantu tajjam tata usadam hitam. The person belongs to which place? The medicines should be well available there, and nature give those medicines. We have to just check out those naturally available medicines to supply that particular clinical conditions. So this linking and delinking are necessary. So one example of jwara I try to keep here. So this is a concept. Say purvarupa are there. That is alasyata, netrasrava. So watching all these symptoms, I have to find out, does this patient need a pachana? This patient have aruchi, abhipaka, guru, udara, or hrudaya asuddhi, the virasata in mukha, there is suptata in gatrata, tandra, alasyata, dosa pravritti. All these are the symptoms of jwara purvarupa. So jwara purvarupa, or that is a amavastha jwara. Now I have to amavastha, in the sense I have to continue the langhana. So for how many days I should continue the langhana? So the clinical practice will be good if I will watch on the patient have a kasa. After continuing the langhana chikitsa, patient develop with the kasa. So jwarat kasa, it is not as a upadrava. Kasa is a signal It is indicating us that no more Langhana to continue. This is very simple actually. So treatments are actually simple, but we are creating complications, and because we are not understanding or we are unable to unfold the concept as such. So this is the information first through the classics. If there is a Amavastha, do the Langhana, but up to which? Up to the patient will have a bag of gas or before to that, if we are well experienced. Similarly, there is a concept of say these are the treatment protocols. If you refer Charak Samhita, this different variety of protocols from Charak Samhita, Bhagavad and Bhavaprakas I kept. Now see, a patient has well treated after by Langhana or other medicines and therapy. Now there is a concept of Jorante Virechana. So now patient is out of Jora. We should not leave the patient as such. Why? Because there might be residual doshas which are not so potent to show the symptoms, but still patient is not well. I sometimes used to speak RT-PCR negative, so might be COVID-19 is absent. But COVID-19 is absent, still are you a healthy person? No. It means to say that even though COVID-19 is absent, but still patient is not free from the disease, not well. Because these concepts are also there in the classics. Therefore, Jvaranta Virejanams. So, Jora theek ho gaya, still a medicine therapy is needed. So, there is an instruction about the cow milk of 150 ml, castor oil 20 ml, Gomutra 100 ml, mix together, bedtime, give up to 3-4 weeks. The patient will be more well. In the sense, he will be exactly free from the Jora. So it is not the asymptomatic Jwara is a healthy persons. So before, in between the healthy persons and persons free from the Jwara, there is a gap. And because we are not treating that gap or considering that gap under clinical practice, so the patient suffering some other diseases after some few days. So these are the instructions. I am not speaking, it is written in our classics. So what are the effects after treatment? We treat a Jwara patient. What are the after effect? So after effect, is it needed some Dipana more? Is it needing some Pachana more? Or some Jwara Hara Chikisa to continue? Some Trusna Hara Chikisa to continue? Some Srotosudhikara medicine to continue? Some Balya medicine to continue? Svedana is needed? Anulomana is needed? Purisa Anulomana is needed? These all questions should come to in our mind so that we can handle the case not only for the Jwara, we can put a healthy persons to the society or a strong enthusiastic healthy persons to the society. So these are the the bridge we have to make. So one another conditions I try to keep here, that is a case of Rakta Pitta. So as I told, Rakta Pitta both left its identity and they show like as if they fuse together. So this light coming from the lamp, is it because of the ghee or is it because the cotton thread has given it or used here? So if you ask these questions, definitely you all will speak because of both. Of course, because of both. Because joint agreement of both the things, the thread and the ghee, able to pass the light. So why these things goes on? Because a long course of pathology is working behind to it. So that is, if you go to the classics, the list of Nidana, the reasons are there, that there is a need of Lavana, there is a Amla, Katu, Viruddhanya, or there are some Manasika reasons are there. Too many water. Some people have been trained from the multimedia that if you take water, then you will have no disease. As if like it is a cleaning of a room. It's actually not like so. So our system is not working according to such a linear mathematics. Our system is actually works because of the non-linear mathematics and is highly exposed to the external universe. So the non-linear mathematics never teaches us that taking excess of water, irrespective of any season, will work similarly. So if a person takes more amount of water during summer seasons and he will still continue during rainy season, then that water itself increases the dravatva, the kledatva, the abhisandhatva. So this abhisandhi, drava, kleda, le susma leads to the slasmaja vata vyadhi. So it looks like there is Amla Pitta or Rakta Pitta are because of Pitta. It is not because of Pitta, it is because of Kleda. So Kleda that is leading to the Drava Buddhi leading to the Pitta Buddhi. Therefore, there is increased Dravatva of the Pitta itself. So in the course of pathology, that can be a disease of Amla Pitta. There can be a disease of Bisarpa. There can be a disease of Kushtha. There can be a disease of Vata Rakta. Region is same. Mark my word. So region is same, and in the course of pathology, it can be a reasons for any such other diseases. And in an advance to this concept, I like to speak. There is a concept of Upadrava and Udarka. So the person is already, say, victim of Rakta Pitta. Still he is continuing the Pitta Ahara Vihara. Then what will happen? Some more pathology, some other dhatu will be affected. So the Rakta Pitta is existing, and the extra pathology consumed by the persons establishing some other symptoms. That's like a extra disease in addition to the Rakta Pitta. So it is in the Rakta Pitta has taught to us if it is a Kapha Pradhanyata, if it's a Vata Pradhanyata, if it's both, then the treatment principles are different. So that's why, because we should not see the disease as a one point. We should see the disease as a stage where many acting, like actors are acting and showing the drama. So you have to see which one is more active. We have to catch that way. So in Charak Samhita Chikitsa Sthana 29, if you will refer, there is a reference in the Pittasruk Buddhi, Pitta Buddhi and Asruk Buddhi, and both are Prayana Amodosa. So Amodosa is there, and therefore we can see there is heavy menorrhagia, heavy menstrual bleedings. There, if we give Upavasa, there will be treatment. And therefore there is a trend of taking rest during menstrual cycles. And extra, advantages or, encouragement in the multimedia about using of these all napkins, all. It is teaching that as if like number 1 and number 2, there is no need to take the physical rest. But it is not like so. Actually, the clinical practice also should focus on these all, because here Ayurveda includes the clinical practice starting from the Nidana, Purva Rupa, Rupa, Upasaya, Samprapti, all together. We cannot just leave all these things in another compartment. So GCP should be based upon the days of the persons, Hayar Jata, Hayar Samruddha, Hayar Vyadhita, Hayar Ahara Jata, Hayar he has taken the Vihara, the same Vihara taken in different places work differently. And in our clinical practice, we should be cunning enough to catch those things too. So what is the Satmyata of that persons? That may not, the same dose may not active to the other persons. What is the Sattva of that persons? That way also we have to think that all the things are well available in our classics, and hardly we are using in our day-to-day, hospital practice. So here I quote from Susu Sanghita, that is how the Sangsarga itself responsible to establish a complex pathology, and that depends upon the 4 factors. That is the Nidana, because of which the dosa get vitiated, and then it travels throughout the body. Where it catch, where the dhatu resiliency is less, there it lodges. So that to be marked, because it is connected to the Sutrasthana 12 chapters, Vata Kala Kaliya. The real pathology is there only. So what the pathology has kept there, that initially the body own dhatu left its resiliency. Up to that time, dhatu maintain its resiliency, dosa prakopa cannot establish the disease. So there might be a dosa buddhi, there might be a dosa prakopa, but the patient will not have a disease. The person will have not have a disease. So it just travel throughout the body. It searches the site. Where the resilience is less, there it's sighted. As I told, the same pathology can create Vata Rakta, can create Visarpa, can create Kushtha, can create Amalpitta. Now which site have lost its resiliency? So main target, therefore always it is written in our Ayurvedic classics, it is our target is Swasthasya Swastha Rakshana. So Swastha, where you are, what you are, which amount you are, you just stay there. So each dhatu should be maintained at its own quality, own quantity, own place. If this is like, then the dosa prakopa cannot establish the disease. It happens because that's why dosa prakopa is related to the diurnal variations. So the variation is going on. That's why it is written Katham sarire dhatunam vaisamyana bhavet iti. Always the vaisamyata is there. Vaisamyata is the sign. The change is the sign of normalcy. We cannot say like so. So resiliency should not lost. Therefore, it affects that site, that mula, that organ, which organ has lost its resiliency. Therefore, treatment should also 4 types. What are the 4 types? If there is nidana, dosha vitiations, then we can go for pachana, langhana, etc. If it is proceeding case the site and it is creating functional problems, then we can go for panchakarma, etc. If it cased a site and deranged structurally, then go for surgical treatment. That is the clinical practice, and then our clinical practice will be good, and that is well executed in the Gulma Vyadhi. So in Gulma, we can see this scenario, how these 4 variety or 4 way of treatment has executed. So Gulma is, if I'll ask these questions even in our college too, what is Gulma? And Gulma is that is a dense accumulated armor or almost all bubble-like structures, and it is well interpreted in terms of tumor. Now it is actually not Gulma. So before the manifestations of a structural derangement like the tumor, that disease was in our classics in terms of Sotha, in terms of Shula. So Shula, because of Amla Pitta, might be the prior condition or preclinical condition of tumor. That's why आयुर्वेदिक फिजिशियंस को पूछ लीजिए आप कितना ट्यूमर पेशेंट देखा है, बहुत कम. कितने गुल्मा पेशेंट देखा है, बहुत कम. But it is not like so. There are many such cases of Sotha and Shula what we ignored. We have not treated as a Gulma. So start to treat Sotha Shula as Gulma patient. Then we may get faster result and we can give a good result to the patient, because the Gulma itself written as a Nirasraya Gulma or Krutavastu Parigraha. So Nirasraya Gulma in the sense there is no Asraya. It is functional derangement of the doshas. And therefore Gulma chapter in the Nidana Sthana started with Panchadha Gulma iti. Here there is no references of Nidana, Purvarupa. Directly classification is coming. What it indicates? It indicates this disease is connected to the Sutra Sthana 18 chapter, that is Trisotya Adhyaya. So Trisotya Adhyaya well described about the Sotha Samprapti, Sula Samprapti, which is a basic pathology to the Gulma retained in Chikitsa Sthana. So if we will not understand, we are not able to link those things, then our clinical practice cannot be established as a good chikitsa. So if you refer to Susu Samhita, there Gulma has written as a Upadrava or Vyadhi. If you refer to Ashtanga Hrudaya, Gulma is written as a Purvarupa of a Vyadhi. Purvarupa of a Vyadhi, Gulma can be, tumor can be. So then if I will ask this question directly to a student, that tell me that Gulma as a Purvarupa of Vyadhi or tumor, Gulma bola to thoda sa sochenge. Tumor as a Purvarupa Vyadhi, then definitely answer will be, it might be benign tumor as a Purvarupa of malignancy. That variety of, is a very senseless answer. I will not say nonsense answer. That's a answer having no sense of applications. So if you refer the Charak Samhita, it's like intermingled phenomena. So might be that, might be this. That way of answer we may get. So if see this is a questions I kept here. That is Rakta Pitta is a Vyadhi. It is because of the dosa involvement or the hetu of dosa vitiation. Treatment to be planned according to which region. How we can plan our clinical practice. Should we write medicines for Rakta Pitta Vyadhi? Should we write medicines for dosas involved in the Rakta Pitta? Or should I write the prescription paper keeping the hetu of dosa vitiations in front? So answer will be the last two. Dosa involved in the disease, that to be treated, and the hetu involved for dosa vitiation also to be treated. Rather, the further pathology cannot be controlled. And there are 6 points I kept here. Every physician should consist before starting to write a prescription papers or before fixing a therapeutical procedures, that in which avastha dosa is, what is the conditions, whether it is Vruddha, Kshaya or Samavastha. Here it is, what is the Gati, it is Udho Gati or Adho Gati or Tirya Gati, because depending upon the Gati of the dosas, our treatment protocol will be changed. And similarly, here the dosa is now. What is the sthana? It is swadesa or paradesa. Means there is pitta bruddhi. Now pitta bruddhi or pitta asaya apakarsa. So pitta is normal, but taken by abnormal vata to the some other place where the pitta is not naturally persist. Means, to be very simplified my concept, where pitta is Sasti Pitta Dharakala. That is its residence. So residential area of pitta is Sasti Pitta Dharakala, the C structure of duodenum, the batter of ampulla. Now because of some other reasons, Vata vitiated. Now बात को गुस्सा आया, बात ने क्या किया, पित्त को उठाया, कहाँ से, षष्ठी पित्त से, और लेके गया कहाँ, लार्ज इंटेस्टाइन में से. So the site of pitta is not large intestine, that is a pitta asaya apakarsa. So asaya is apakarsita. It is hijacked by the vata dosa, kept there in the large intestine. So initially 2-3 days, few days, the pitta dosa will try to understand where I am, what I should, what the other friends. You'll ask the nearby neighbors, and now pitta is taking the help of the pitta site to the large intestines. There is some little amount of pitta is there in the large intestines. Now there is a friendship in between asaya apakarsta pitta and the sthanika pitta. Then the disease become a bruddha pitta dosha. So before diagnosing the disease, we have to think कि ये patient तो पित्त का लक्षण बोल रहा है. But is it because of अपकर्षित pitta or is it because of bruddha pitta? So if it is not अपकर्षित pitta, then our sodhana treatment will give. So pitta में विरेचन देना चाहिए. Of course it is correct. But if we will give the virechana therapy, not understanding is it अपकर्ष pitta or bruddha pitta, then our sodhana therapy will not work. So in case of apakrushta pitta, there is no need of sodhana chikitsa. There is a need of treating the bruddha vata. The what we speak as a it is very mysterious, very dynamic, very mischief characteristics of vata dosa to be treated. Then apakrushta pitta dosa will be controlled. And next point to be understood, that is the nature of vyadhi, whether it is swatantra or paratantra. So it is swanidana prokopita, then it is swatantra. It need the whole treatment protocol of pitta dosa. If it is a paratantra, means say the dravatva of kapha dosa has increased, and that is vitiating the pitta dosa. The treatment protocol will be different. So if I will get some other opportunity, other classes where I can clarify all these things. I don't know what is the exact time. So the rest 2 points, that is angsangsa kalpana of the dosas. So angsangsa kalpana, which indicates say vata dosa is vitiated. Now in case of vyadhi, that is we have to give the snigdha chikitsa. Then if there is a there is a ruksha guna is vitiated more. Ushna guna is increased, then Sita guna has to give. But that time we cannot ignore the Ushna guna or Sita guna also present in other dosas. What is written in Sutras on the first chapter itself. Sarvada Sarvabhavanam Samanya Bruddhikam Rasudhisascha Prabhuti Vabhayasyetu. So Cha is there. That Cha can change all the characteristics of treatment protocol. वो Cha एक ही चाबी है जो सारे चिकित्सा प्रोटोकॉल को चेंज कर सकता है. So that epistemological derivations to be clarified there. And the last point to add for a good clinical practice, that is in which dhatu the dosa is taking shelter. Same vata bruddhi in sheltering in rakta dhatu, creating different disease. Same vata bruddhi in the mangsa dhatu, creating different disease and expecting different treatment protocols. So these all things to be necessary to unfold and to be revitalized, and it should be so common. इसको और इतना ज़्यादा common बना दिया जाए. It should not be so critical. It's very simple. As I told in the last class too, that is starting from the chikitsa from the first chapter, Jora chikitsa. If you see the scenario of the vata vyadhi chikitsa, etc., it is whole the ama. Without ama, the disease cannot be. Now ama, of course ama, but what variety of ama? Ama is related to kapha dosa, ama is related to pitta dosa, ama is related to vata dosa. Then the treatment will be very simple. So the patient when come with the ama, of course it is a kaphaja ama. So give Langana chikitsas. It is very simple treatment protocols will be well available in each and every IBD colleges throughout the country. So not need to decode or some other way. Therefore, I like to conclude. Well, before concluding, I like to speak that good clinical practice should be directly based upon the human value and minimum clinical problems we should create or we should encourage, and it is necessary to connect with the public health now. Now the society is expecting that the more and more focus to be given under the on the public health to decrease that variety of pandemicity. Infectious disease have a pandemicity, but stipulated time. But the pandemicity of obesity, pandemicity of diabetes, what sir was speaking about. So a good reality is that the peoples are confused. More than that, the physicians are also confused. So we have to treat those confusions from the systems. And one miraculous idea cannot solve all these complex issues. We should not be so smart enough that this miraculous idea will work everywhere. That to be necessary, and that leveraging these all trend and traditions to our culture, to the so-called cultures, is necessary to leverage with the science and understandings, so that we can minimize and we can achieve those things faster. And one another thing I always used to speak, but I still like to speak, that it's good that you have a Lamborghini, but covering that area, even with the Maruti 800, mentality is the same, or mentality should same. It should not be just different. It's a simple message I like to give, that no athletes have large abdomen. Yes, हम देख सकते हैं, very simple. All the athletes we can check, they don't have a large abdomen. It means very simple, that if you will have that amount of work more to your consumptions, then you will free from the large abdomen or obesity or the central obesity. So this is a simple message I like to give at the end. And thank you to all of you for your kind listenings, especially all the authority present here. And sorry, a little bit issue my joining. Okay, thank you to all of you. Namaste.
Thank you, madam. Thank you. Initially, every time your problem starts, but really, you are so knowledgeable and ocean of knowledge that when you start, everything stops. Excellent. Welcome, madam. Really great. Excellent. सर मदन सर से पूछना चाहता हूं, आप जो कंसेप्ट बोलते थे मेरे ख्याल से विष्णुप्रिया जी ने उनको प्रेजेंटेशन में ला दिया, नहीं सर?
बिल्कुल जी, बिल्कुल। आप विष्णुप्रिया जी ने जो बताया जी कि आम की जो the different variations, these are all very important details, clinical details. Or I want to thank Bishnupriya ji's sincere thanks for taking us so quickly into the finest details of clinical excellence. And now my comment, आपकी दूसरी comment जी जो आप कह रहे थे कि it must all very swiftly connect with public health. विष्णुप्रिया जी, हमने जो बताया कि डायबिटीज गांव में, कल हम देख के आए गांव में, यमुना के नजदीक गांव में डायबिटीज हर एक गांव में. This is a terrible thing. अब कोई है ही नहीं इनके to take them, to help them. और हमारी किताबों में पढ़ा पता नहीं कितनी द्रव्य. अब there is a big gap here. अब रामदास जी की कमेंट बिल्कुल सही है कि इतनी चीज, there are so many gaps in our thinking. कहीं MD पता नहीं MD PhD थीसिस चल रहा अलग-अलग इंस्टीट्यूट में, वहाँ क्या हो रहा. So आपने जो आज जो बताया जी बहुत बढ़िया. And I think you have to keep guiding us, keep pushing us थोड़ा और हर वक्त जब भी आप हमारे साथ हो कि करते रहिए जी इस टाइप का थोड़ा very deep questions. आपने जो 3-4 सवाल आज जो पूछा हमसे, इतनी आपने मॉलिक्यूलर मार्कर्स की बात बताया, क्यों नहीं हो सकती हमारी आयुर्वेद में. आनी चाहिए जरूर, बिल्कुल। हमारे साथ आज है जी काफी लोग जुड़ चुके हैं आज हमारे साथ एक है जी स्पेन से, बार्सिलोना से है आयुर्वेद वैद्य जी। यहाँ विजय कैरोलिन करके केरल में पढ़ा, तिरुवनंतपुरम गवर्नमेंट आयुर्वेद कॉलेज, अब प्रैक्टिस कर रहा कहाँ, बार्सिलोना स्पेन में। अच्छा, हमारे साथ है जी कैरोलिन, थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ज्वाइनिंग। और हमारे साथ है जी, आई वांट टू ब्रिंग कैरोलिन इनटू आवर डिस्कशन। हमारे साथ है जी श्रीनिवास
भट्टाचार्य, माय फ्रेंड
बासवती जी है हमारे साथ। देखो विष्णुप्रिया जी, आपने आज सबको उठा के लाया आपके सेमिनार में। आपके सुनने के लिए सारे आए, स्पेन से आए लोग। अब हमारे साथ है जी
श्रीनिवास जी। कहाँ से हैं सर?
हाँ, श्रीनिवास राव साहब है तेलंगाना से, मगर श्रीनिवास जी पढ़ा
प्रणाम साहब, प्रणाम।
और श्रीनिवास जी
प्रणाम।
पूरा गांव की तरफ सोच लगा रहा, पूरा कि काउ बेस्ड गाय गौ माता की प्रयोग करके कैसे करें खेती बाड़ी। तो श्रीनिवास जी के साथ थे हम कल यमुना के किनारे। तो श्रीनिवास, अगर पवन जी अगर थोड़ा श्रीनिवास जी की थोड़ा सुनाए।
जरूर हम विजय जी, श्रीनिवास जी सभी को सुनना चाहेंगे सर।
हाँ, थोड़ा फिर उसके बाद कैरोलिन जी स्पेन से, बार्सिलोना से, उनकी तरफ से भी थोड़ा सोच, और थोड़ा सा सुनना रामदास जी के साथ। रामदास जी इतनी सो श्रीनिवास जी नमस्कार, प्लीज नमस्ते। बताओ जी, क्या आज आप कौन से गांव में हो जी?
प्रभु दर्शन।
अभी हम दिल्ली आए हैं सर, अभी गांव वालों को हम कुछ मंत्रालयों में संपर्क कराने।
अच्छा जी।
Yesterday we were in the cluster villages, so we brought two of the coordinators from the cluster area to introduce them to ministries and to some of the staff in the ministries. So now they are going to coordinate further, because I want to distribute the work now of the cluster area. So today we have met people in Krishi Bhavan, mostly from Ministry of Agriculture, Ministry of Rural Development, and also Ministry of Science and Technology.
ये देखो विष्णुप्रिया जी, देखो श्रीनिवास जी आयुर्वेद पढ़ के गांव की तरफ सोच लगा रहा, पूरा जोर गांव की तरफ, और गौ माता को यूज करके कैसे करें खेती बाड़ी, और कैसे कनेक्ट करें हमारी डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ बायोटेक्नोलॉजी, मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के साथ। तो आपके मन में जो विचार थी, मार्कर लगाएंगे, कुछ करेंगे, वो सारा कुछ अब शुरू हो गया पूरा श्रीनिवास जी के साथ।
तो सर अभी
श्रीनिवास जी थोड़ा और बताना जी वो।
हाँ सर, अभी दो कोऑर्डिनेटर से वे भी अपना आइडियाज शेयर करेंगे। दो कोऑर्डिनेटर से उसी क्लस्टर से कल के एक जो नितिन जी हैं, नितिन चौहान जी, ये वहाँ संघ के भी कार्यकर्ता है पुराने, और पूरी इसको कोऑर्डिनेट करे क्लस्टर एक्टिविटी को। और एक है विवेक जी,
हमें थोड़ा बताना जी, आपके मन में जो पंचकुल वाली आइडिया थोड़ा बताना जी हमें।
तो हमारा जो अभी प्रयास है एक मॉडल बनाने की, गांवों का एक संकुल को एक मॉडल के रूप में हमें एस्टेब्लिश करना है, इकोनॉमिकली वायबल मॉडल, जो गो आधारित एक पूरा सस्टेनेंस का एक नमूना बनेगा। तो पहले होता था, ये कुछ नया नहीं है, पहले जो होता था व्यवस्था गाँवों में, उसी व्यवस्था को फिर से हमें लानी है एक छोटे से क्लस्टर में। तो ये क्लस्टर अभी फिर हम बाद में, जैसे मदन जी का कहना था कि इसको हम रेप्लिकेट करेंगे सभी ब्लॉक लेवल पे। तो इसके लिए अभी पहले मॉडल पर हम अभी यहाँ कार्य शुरू किए थे 6 साल पहले, मगर कुछ कारण विशेष से मुझे फिर इधर से तेलंगाना जाना पड़ा, फिर वापस वही क्लस्टर को रिवाइव करने में लगे हैं। तो ये क्लस्टर है यमुना जी के तट पे, और ये 3 राज्यों का ये सीमावर्ती गांव है, हरियाणा, दिल्ली और यूपी। तो इसमें 4 जिले जुड़े हैं। नॉर्थ वेस्ट दिल्ली के, नॉर्थ वेस्ट डिस्ट्रिक्ट है दिल्ली का, सोनीपत जिला है हरियाणा का, और बागपत और गाजियाबाद जिले हैं यूपी के। तो ऐसे चारों जिलों में अभी जितने भी सीमावर्ती गांव हैं यमुना जी से लगे हुए, उन सब गांव को एक यमुना क्लस्टर है। तो अभी तो 15 गांव का अपना नेटवर्क पूरा बन चुका है। अभी इसको एक्सटेंड कर रहे हैं 108 गांवों में। तो ऐसे हर राज्य के 36 गांवों को इसमें हम जोड़ रहे हैं, दोनों यमुना जी के दोनों ओर। तो इसको अभी एक तो हमें नदी शक्ति, अभी आज वहां भी गए थे, एक जल शक्ति मंत्रालय जो नया बना है, उनके साथ भी कल मीटिंग होने वाली है।
So,
और तो ये भी
Srinivas ji,
प्रयास है
I'm
कि
so happy. I'm so happy you have joined us today because Bishnupriya ji has been telling us पिछले 3-4 वेबिनारों में विष्णुप्रिया जी की सोच मन में ये है कि गांव की तरफ चलें, गांव वालों को सिखाएं कि ये कैसे जोड़ें, कि आयुर्वेद कॉलेजों में जो पढ़ाई चल रहा उसको कैसे जोड़ें फॉर मीनिंगफुल पब्लिक हेल्थ इश्यूज। तो विष्णुप्रिया जी, आपका आज मुलाकात हुई श्रीनिवास जी, so please let us stay together. Srinivas ji आयुर्वेद पढ़े थे आंध्रा at the time, हैदराबाद से, और उसके बाद किया काफी कुछ काम हमारी योग यूनिवर्सिटी में बेंगलुरु में, जिगनी में। सो श्रीनिवास जी अब पूरा जोर लगा रहा गांव की तरफ, गांव में ले जाओ जो कुछ करनी है, और he is our driver for many things. So Srinivas ji, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद for joining us today.
Thanks a lot sir for this opportunity.
Please stay with us क्योंकि आप हमें सुनना है थोड़ा विजय जी से। विजय कार्लिन, नमस्कार जी। विजय is Vijay, how good is your Hindi? Is it all right? Vijay is joining from Barcelona, Spain से, और Vijay studied Ayurved Trivandrum Government Ayurveda College, and then he decided to come to Europe. Our Vijay ka special expertise है dietary metabolic disease. Vijay, thank you for joining us. I don't know how good is your Hindi. You saw the depth at which our discussion went today.
Yeah, I could follow.
You could follow that. Please tell us a little bit. Please tell us a little bit about what are the patients you are seeing in Barcelona, or.
Well, are you able to hear me?
Very clearly, thank you.
Okay, yes. Then yes. Here, because the public health system is very powerful, I am unable to get any normal patients. What I get is patients that are not able to be treated in the public health system. So I get generally patients who are with fibromyalgia, with multiple sclerosis, sometimes some type of cancers. And mostly I don't use medicines. I use Ayurveda-based diet reforms and corrections. And basically, as doctor had told, the importance of Ama Chikilsa, I am practicing that for the past more than 6 years, more specifically, and I'm able to get a great result from just treating Ama, understanding whether it is Vadaja Ama, Pittaja Ama, or is it Ama Visha, and I'm able to get great results from it. So that's enough.
Vijay, I want to stop you there very quickly because this is a very special opportunity. Please tell us a little bit about the complication with Manasmatvriti, or that formulation that was given for autism. Please tell us openly here. We want to hear openly. What was the formulation? What was the problem? Because this fits into our mandate here. Please tell us very openly. Just don't no.
I don't know.
No hiding anything.
Just
tell us.
Well, what Madan is referring to is the incident that has happened in Australia, where an Ayurvedic doctor, had given Manasamitra Vadaga 1 year ago, and he claims he had given only three pills, and Manasamitra Vadaga as such does not have lead in its ingredient, but it was found to have produced lead toxicity in a child. So the government there has prevented him from practicing since 1 year, and they have given a big fine to the company that has distributed it. So we are trying to address this issue, where first of all we have the main problem issue where our mineral drugs has to be regulated, but what exactly is, because of not adhering to the good manufacturing practices, even the herbal preparations are contaminated with lead and other heavy metals. So on a global level, we are not facing the important problem where we need to have addressed is like on a global scale, we are not having the problem of telling whether Ayurveda is working or not. Before that, we are put down just by having products which are having heavy metals. So even before telling that our medicines are effective for diseases, we are put down in the global scenario just by telling your Ayurvedic medicines don't have quality.
This
They
is
are
Vijayji,
toxic for
Vijayji, this is a very important point you touched on, because this is exactly what is going to happen in this large framework that is developing in Calcutta under the leadership of Pawanji and his team. I want to bring, now that you've touched on heavy metals, I want to see if I can bring Baswati-ji into our discussion. Baswati-ji is, I don't know where she is today, might be in Varanasi. Baswati-ji, I don't know if Professor Jha is here with us. I don't know, Bishnupriya-ji, did you study in the same college as Professor C.B. Jha in Begusarai? No, you're not from that college. But Baswati-ji, I hope Baswati-ji will just share a few thoughts with us on this point that, because I know you have a PhD in Rasashastra, Rasa Aushadhis, and that issue that Vijay has touched on is a very difficult one, because we don't want to take a bad example of a formulation that has been given a certification, that has been certified by one of the Ayush certified labs in India, and then it comes all the way into Australia or New Zealand, wherever this is, and it gets a bad name. Now, there are major flaws in all these things, you know. How do we, you know, put those standards there? How do we make people, what Bishnupriya ji was saying, लोगों की वो आदत ही छूट गया, पता नहीं, that quality आदत, thinking clearly is all छूट गया, पता नहीं उसको कैसे ले आऊं वापस. Baswati ji, you are sitting, I think you are joining us from Varanasi today, the heart of all this deep learning, and I'm so happy you have joined us today. Please share your thoughts openly, freely, you know, candid comments. Following on, please connect also with Bishnupriya ji's thinking कि आगे क्या करना, आगे क्या होनी है.
First of all, Vijay ji, namaste. I haven't seen you in some time. I have a lovely picture of us sitting together in one of the conferences.
Yeah.
It was my pleasure to listen to Dr. Vishnupriya, ma'am. It was lovely to listen to you. We, Dinacharya Masterclasses, just finished a quarter on Apatarpana, Santarpana, and I was actually very surprised how little they learn that concept for clinical practice in the BAMS and MD in many, many places in India, as well as, of course, abroad. So coming to the heavy metals issue, and I have to ask, Bishnupriya ji, are you Bengali?
Yes, please.
Vishnu,
Yeah, basically I'm from the,
Bangla.
my mother is Bengali and Papa is from
Odisha. Sorry.
From Orissa. কারণ আমি আপনার গলা শুনে মনে হলো যে বাংলা বলছেন।
No, actually from Subhash Chandra Bose.
Acha, very good. Very good.
You see, we have a collection. Baswati, do you want to continue in Bengali a little more? We like to hear you speak Bengali. Thoda aur
আমরা তো
batao.
বাংলাতে তো নিশ্চয়ই কথা বলতে পারি, কিন্তু আমার মনে হচ্ছে যে তাহলে মাত্র পবনজি আর বিষ্ণুপ্রিয়াজি আর আমি কথা বলবো আর শুনবো, আর কেউ বুঝতে পারবে না। ফলে আমি একটু ইংলিশ আর হিন্দিতে সুইচ করি, আর তাহলে সবাই বুঝতে পারবে। ঠিক আছে?
Look at that. We have everything here. Continue.
No idea if you understood what I said, Madanji, but so to heavy metals. There is a lack of awareness. And despite the seminars that have happened both in this forum, there's been several forums like the FICCI and various national and international groups that are talking about the consequences of restricting mining fresh mercury and bringing that in. This is as per the Minamata. Most people don't know that there are only 4 heavy metals and the rest of them are not tracked. So the 4 are mercury, which I just mentioned from Minamata, lead, which Vijayji just mentioned, arsenic, and cadmium. And cadmium is usually not found in the soil. It's usually the byproduct of air fuelage, like the air burning. So you'll see it in pockets. Indian government couldn't figure this out. So we had to tell them that actually in the especially European countries, they've studied the area where the planes come down and take off. And it's that farmland that gets the exhaust and the smog from the airplanes that has created the cadmium heavy metal. So those 4 are there. The others, all the other, 30, 40 common metals are not a problem. So abraka bhasma, which has aluminum and silica and magnesium and vanadium and all, depending on where you get the abraka, it's not a dangerous bhasma. So when they say bhasma, they have to first bring that awareness. Second is the heavy metals issue. Where is it coming from? So brand by brand, they are getting their raw supply from one place. And so now there's this joke of, okay, pharmacists don't understand the Ayurvedic Bhaishajya company. I think Dr. Bishnupriya really beautifully explained that when she went into what good clinical practice is using Ayurveda. Those people who are making the regulations have no idea how to diagnose and do the clinical, what we call the algorithm of treating the patient. If you take that over to the medicine that's used, you can do what Dr. Vijay is doing, using Ahara Vihara primarily because of the restrictions in much of Europe. But if you're going to use medicines, then you can't say, oh, we have to standardize. Why? Because actually, so just in the case of Bhasma, we'll say, the way that you do the Marana, the Bhavana, the way that you do the Shodhana, it's not that there's a lack of expertise and that's why they have 5 methods of Shodhana. The different methods of Shodhana are introducing different gunas, different ratios of the Panchamahabhutas into that metal preparation that's in the process of happening. So where they get those dravyas, those herbal medicines from, and where they get the metallic source from makes a difference. You can't just analyze it chemically, because the chemical analyses are actually not telling us about the quaternary structure, which is a big issue in chemistry. They're not telling us about the nanoparticles, exactly the way that they work in the human body. They're only telling what chemistry understands. And they're certainly not talking about entanglement theory and issues in physics. They talk about where did the electrons come from? What about the memory of water? What about very subtle energy issues that are axiomatically, yatha pinde tatha brahmande, right? So we know that there are issues that physicists understand that are not even being considered when it comes to these medicines. So these are all philosophical. When we come to actual heavy metal practical issues with the public health system, there needs to be greater awareness. There needs to be greater teaching. We need to talk at their level of understanding, because they don't understand Langhana and Apatarpana Santarpana. They certainly don't understand Amavastha. They don't understand any of the beautiful nuances that Dr. Bishnupriya talked about that clinicians understand. I sat and I'm thinking, oh, I have to wait until Pawanji sends this recording. I have to listen to this again. Oh, I want to listen to Vijayji's comments again about the issue happening in Australia and how can I help? They actually, they have some issues going on. Why can't they handle this faster? We don't want this to be an issue like the 2004 SAPER article that the Department of Ayush at that time, they couldn't even handle that in a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. SAPER came out with a second article, and then those people finally put some studies together, and then they came out with a very weak statement saying, by the way, our bhasmas are safe, they're not toxic, and they work. And it was too late, because between 2004 and 2008, between 2004 and 2008, it seems that there was a lot of damage done about this whole heavy metals nonsense, right? I'm not going to say it's complete nonsense, because we do know that if you inject unprocessed heavy metals, there's an issue. But we need to explain to public health officials that there aren't just 3 kinds of mercury: organic, inorganic, and what's the third one? Organo compounds. We also need to tell them that there's the Shodhana mercury, the Sodhita, the one that's been cleansed. And this concept is nowhere in the understanding of modern chemistry. It's time for people, all Vaidyas, to explain that heavy metals have a very different level of respect and understanding in the medicines of India. And I think most people who are really good clinicians use Rasa Aushadhis, whether or not they talk about it. So it's time that they come together and really explain to the modern medical doctors, the public health people in India, and then the international public health people that you're talking about, Madan. I'm not going to say
we are very fortunate that we have you with us today, because you bring those skills to us. And I'm hoping that you will stay with us, be patient with us, and guide us as the structure that Pawanji has put together, as this shapes and grows, because you bring all those skills into these discussions, dialogues. And what we have seen today is the large spectrum through which we can operate very easily. We can work down in the village, any village we want. Srinivasji showed us how we go all the way into the villages, and we can talk to individual families. We can find out what are the health issues at that level. We can move all the way outward to where you are in America, or where Vijay is in Spain, or issues like what is being discussed in Australia. We should find that partnership. In this is a strength, where Ramadas ji is here with us, giving us so many insights. I want to bring Ramadas ji into our discussion now. But
Namaste, Ramadas ji.
And I want to bring Ramadas ji into our discussion, because Ramadas ji is guiding us in the last many webinars. He's been saying how we should reshape our thinking, education aspects, etc.
It's possible he can't turn on his video.
Ramadas ji, we want to see you also on video. So
he may be at his mother's house. I think he might not be able to turn on his video.
What Bishnupriya ji has inspired us today. She's guiding us with every one of our webinars, where we should go, what the thinking should be, how it should change. So what we are seeing here from Srinivas ji's work in the villages in Telangana, or the villages in the NCR region along the banks of the Yamuna historic river, and what Bishnupriya ji is telling us about where our thinking, the inadequacy in our thinking, where we should reshape our students, what Vijay ji is talking about in terms of happenings in global issues, both locally in Spain and in other areas, and how Ayurveda is getting a bad name. And all those comments, we are a very strong group. If you come to think about it, we are a very strong group, together with scholarship like Ram Prasad ji here. So I'm going to give the floor to Ram Prasad ji. Ramdas ji, please guide us now, because you have put so many wonderful comments here. You've talked to us about same things in the previous sessions. Please guide us now a little bit in what is on your mind. You surprised us the last thing with your call for connecting students with the villages, and to teach them how herbs grow in a real village setting, etc., etc. So your mind will have many, many more ideas for us to be inspired by. So please.
Sir, actually, I don't know I am eligible to speak on clinical things, etc. But my humble request is, we are supposed to connect all the departments, even in a single college. The single college itself, each department is a separate entity. There is no coordination among them to decide the PG thesis or PhD thesis. If a college...
Ramdas, I want to just stop you for a moment here and bring Bishnupriya ji to comment on this. What is the difficulty, Bishnupriya ji?
Yes, sure.
What is the difficulty?
Sure.
And you can come join in after this. Bishnupriya ji, please tell us what is the difficulty here. I also want to hear from Baswati ji a little bit, because she has spent time in the big institution, Banaras Hindu University. The point is, what is the problem? Why aren't we coming together? I mean, you're talking about ministry level interaction, which is a different ball game. But even within a college, what Ramadas ji is saying is there is some difficulty. Bishnupriya ji, please guide us a little bit. How does it happen in SHIRODA in your college?
Absolutely 100% correct what he is speaking.
इसकी इलाज क्या है जी?
Prior to integrating the other system of medicines with Ayurveda, each department need to integrate it.
Yes,
but
madam.
What is the, Ramadas ji, what is the solution here?
Sir, solution is very simple. Solution is very simple. Always there should be a higher board to decide the problems that which the society is facing. And they have to give a single problem to a single college. And the single college, all the department HODs sit together, and all the PG scholars and the PhD scholars sit together to complete one round of that problem solution from the single college.
Baswati ji, would you like to? Baswati ji, Ramdas ji,
yes, sir.
Baswati ji and on the conductor. Baswati ji, please comment on this one point. Just, I want to take this to the next level of what is happening. Why this difficulty? Is it because there is only 24 hours in a day? Unmute.
I think Professor Ramdas has a very good point, because he's at a place like Amrita, which is huge, with many, many different campuses and many, many different schools, as well as just the Ayurvedic school. And I think that the only way we are going to mainstream and integrate, as per this NCISM bill that's happened, act that was passed in November, and bring that to fruition by 2030, is there's only one way, and that is to focus on a clinical problem. Because when the patient is in the middle, in America, we call it patient-centered care. That is the only way you're going to get everyone to work together. So what Professor Ramadas ji is saying is, look at the mountain. If we're all standing on different sides of the mountain, fine, but we should all work together to climb up the mountain. And that mountain is that challenge of disease. Disease that happens has no politics of who is the HOD, who makes how much money, who has the biggest office, who has the car and driver. Disease happens because it is an imbalance of doshas. Yes, there is a mental component to it. Yes, of course, there is ahara vihara to it. But the entire disease that is happening around that college, if everyone learns to study it from a Ayurvedic epidemiologic point of view, and we're just talking about Ayurveda now, we're not talking about the Ayush, different systems or modern medicine. But if we look at it and we ask the Siddhant people, find us the shlokas, and we ask the Kaya Chikitsa people, how shall we deal with this problem? Whether it's diabetes, whether it's right now COVID in Kerala and parts of Maharashtra, whether it's any disease that's chosen, you could watch how people take the approach on that same disease, keep it patient-centered so that the public health people are involved, and then come up with solutions that always keep the patient in the center. So I really like what Ramadas just said. But wait, I just want to say, but the problem is that most of the people in public health, like when I studied my MPH at Harvard, there were no Vaidyas there. So there are only a handful of Vaidyas that have public health backgrounds where they actually understand public health, community medicine, and that idea of the health of the community as an integral part of Ayurvedic.
Ramdas ji, I want to bring you back in, but before that, one more question for Baswati ji, because Baswati ji has studied in the top medical schools, top universities in America. She has been to Harvard, she's been to all the schools. Now,
you don't even remember.
What I'm saying is, for us, as far as the disease, I'm taking your disease. Like, what I'm saying is, doesn't matter which school you've studied, but the mountain remains, the individual remains. I want to see, Baswati ji is also involved in a lot of discussion, Gulma interactions that are going on with the National Cancer Institute. She's providing a lot of energy there. And Bishnupriya ji has talked about a little bit on the cancer side. Now, I have a question for you. What will you do to speed up an interaction between Ayurveda as this beautiful science and the American universities? No doubt America has some of the best universities, teaching systems, teaching styles in the world. What can we do here as a group? And where do you think? Is it too early, or is the time right? Or can we open direct discussions like you are doing already? And then I want to come back to the point that Ramdas ji was elaborating.
So the biggest thing that's missing is the mass communication. So part of that is communication to the layperson, part of it's communication to the policymakers, and part of it's just communication into the research literature. So all of us need to learn how to do that. And some tangible points are, number one, teaching people how to write good case histories. I have been to, I don't know how many seminars, including on this platform, of how to write a case history. But
you
there is
students,
no,
for students.
Anyone that does clinical practice should write a case history. Every person that graduates from a BAMS program should know how to write a case history and should have an obligation. They have to publish a case history. It can be in Hindi, it can be in Bangla, it can be in Malayalam, it can be in English, but it should be a format where the case history is written, because unless they learn that as a practical, tangible skill, they are not going to do it. And this is for pure clinicians. The second part is the research that they're doing. Like if you go to Shodh Ganga, you can now get everyone's thesis, everyone's PhD thesis. I have had hundreds of people ask me for my PhD thesis after I got it. I couldn't share it with them, right? There was no place. Now UGC has said, look, we're putting all these funds for people to do their MD, PhD. Those theses should be accessible to all. So it's on Shodh Ganga. So that's another mass communication, but the awareness is not there that there's so much beautiful Ayurveda research done, especially in Dravya Guna and Bhaishya Kalpana that we're talking about, that's already been done that can be used as data because it's already published by those schools. And then the third is to teach more young Vaidyas. We don't need only the stalwarts speaking. We need more young Vaidyas to learn how to communicate to the laymen and to international audiences and to the policymakers. So the Dinacharya master classes does not take huge stalwart professors. I specialize in taking Vaidyas who are between 30 and 50 years old, teaching them how to teach on an international platform, how to teach Ayurveda on an international platform, and actually teach in classes. Not only does it build their resume to be teaching at a school like Dinacharya, but it also is teaching them how to speak. Because if they don't know how to present, they are not going to be invited to speak in front of those policymakers where they have so much knowledge, but it can't be understood. So the last thing that I'm doing is I'm watching so many of these seminars on YouTube after the point, when especially because I can't join live, I have my own classes 3 nights a week. And then I am using this information as data, like the mercury data. I sat with Dr. Jha for hours, and he went to Ayush and he met with the people and he gave them all the information based on what he had seen from this. I think it was like a 6 or 7 parts of the mercury, the part of the series that was put together on this forum that Pavanji had, invited so many people. And when Dr. Jha went there, it gives an effect that so many people can't give, because he can literally answer questions on his feet. And he said he had a very productive session with the Ayush, and not just Ayush, but people in the other related ministries. So this is how I think we are bridging between
Thank-
the authenticity of
Thank-
Ayurveda and then the public health.
Thank you, Baswati. I want to bring back Ramadasji. Ramadasji, namaskaram.
Yes, sir.
Please continue. Sorry, we got disrupted, but you can see how the different threads are coming together in a way that is coherent with what you have put in the chat box here. You've put many superb ideas, but please, Ella, continue on what you said of how we can bring that cohesion together with the departments, and how we can work towards that peak that Baswati ji mentioned, that peak, the patient, the illness, etc. How to bring this culture change?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Actually, my idea in my mind, if a college is situated in a local place, there should be a data of the health of those area by the institution from the Department of Swastavritta as well as basic principle. They can go for such studies, and they can create so much questionnaire and tools for the further researchers. All these problems, when they come over here, they have to do the clinical study from the cases from that area alone. So you will get perfect area with perfect conditions, perfect everything will be there. All this Dashvida Pariksha you can do very perfectly in the research. So, see, Swastavritta department has studied, gone to the society, find out the problem. They made their thesis on that. On the same thesis, the clinical study is happening. Now, the clear manuscript studies are going on almost all the colleges. There are books which are written in latest centuries, 14, 15, 16, 17. There are so many books. There are mixture of the Ayurveda and the Rasa Aushadhi together they are giving. Such cases, so many we can find out. There are so many manuscripts are there. Whatever you call it as case study, it is published. There are great Vaidyas, they have written their whole life, whatever they have practiced. Those books have to be published. And it should not be there in the library. Again, I am telling you, all the books which are done by the PG scholars as well as PhD scholars are there in the library. It is not coming out. It is not reaching to the other people to read it and understand it. So such a system has to be brought first. Whatever 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees the PG scholar is spending for his research paper, and it is not coming to the public. You just imagine the money is worthless and his study is worthless. 3 years of his life is worthless. And see, he is not going to practice it in his clinical or the educational system also. It is just for a certificate it is going on. That system has to be first changed. It should be cleaned. In this way it can be. Find out, as Basudhi madam told, a mountain. You consider a mountain. A problem in a society. That should be the mountain you are considering. You put it into each department. How can you solve that mountain? How can you climb on it? There is a part of Sastavritta in problem solving. There is a part of Dravyaguna in problem solving. There is a part of Kaya Chikitsa of problem solving. You take that problem solving, all the department do the same problem, different aspects according to their departments. At the end of your PG scholar's thesis for 1 or 2 years or 2 batches, you are going to find out a beautiful solution for that problem for that region.
I want, Ramdas-ji, I want to hear a few words from Bishnupriya-ji. I also want to hear a few words from Srinivas-ji here, because Srinivas-ji is looking at 2 areas. He's looking at Telangana, he's looking at NCR region and parts of Uttar Pradesh and three states. Bishnupriya-ji, I think this is coming closer to what you have in your mind in terms of wanting to connect.
Yeah, sir, actually, yeah. I am working on a project that is how to implement Charak Sanhita in public health. So on that work, what we did, whole shloka to be divided into 3 levels: primary level of implementations, secondary level, and tertiary level of implementations. So primary level of implementations, which are the common information of health, discarded from the medical educations, passed to the mass education. So I need a health secretary to whom I will convince, and one state it will be applied first, and then as a protocol it will be applicable to the other state. This is first. And here SOP will be produced by the tertiary level. Secondary level of education institutions. All the institutions are actually a representation of secondary level of implementation. Here standing or a standby, as you know, that is a protocol as fixed, and accordingly we are working. If at all you have expertizations from any department, those will be referred to the tertiary level of education. Now you can ask, what is tertiary level of education out of the institutions? Of course, our Ayurved system don't have a research organization. So our system should have research organizations, research institutions separately. Here the tertiary level of people will work. That is, they will work with the approach of multidisciplinary research. Here the expert of Ayurveda, expert of biomedical sciences, expert of forest, expert of marine, expert of geology, all the IIT, all the people will work. So any department expertizations, because it is a routine scenario in the Ayurvedic colleges, it is my view of Virechana. It is my system of Bhamana. Please don't take like so. If you have a organizer to that tertiary level of education, they will sit, revise the things in each 6 month gap, and who will work on the tertiary level? That may be a question, because many times, you know, promoted people reach to that level, but that should not be. If you like to select a person to work at the tertiary level, you know, it's a team of people will work behind that persons, will judge behind that persons. Years together, at least they will take 1 year to judge a person, to select a persons who will work on the tertiary level.
Thank you, Vishnu.
I'll put a shortcut. And what? Yes.
No, I think.
I hope the message has passed.
Yes. What you're saying is correct. I want to bring Ramdas ji back here because he is very lucky to be connected with Amrita network of institutions. And they have their own Ayurveda college. They have a very well-established hospital there. They have modern medicine going on. And they have Center for Nanoscience. They have so many amazing things going on. Can we do something like that in Amrita? Is this Bishnupriya ji's comment about this tertiary level where all the disciplines come together? I was hoping that this would come out in BHU in a place like IMS, but somehow, if we were to rethink this whole thing, would Amrita be a good place for, because you already have some very valuable people.
So certainly, actually now Amrita is planning to regularize and standardize their publications and researches. They are going to take classes from different disciplines, biotechnology as well as modern allopathic, and all together they want to come together. Now that processing is going on. They have designed it. This every Monday they are planning to have presentation of the publications, and actually the KC department will present the paper of Swastavrita. You just imagine, they wanted to connect this department each other. Such a way they now designed everything in a, not only that one, even the electronics department will present, all the faculty has to be present over there. Even the biotech will present, all the faculty has to be present over there. So they wanted to connect all the departments of Amrita together for a creative research wing for Amrita. It will be coming out within 5 years, they will regularize it. So that process is started with this NAC third visit of our college, our university. They are planning it very beautifully, sir. They are planning it very.
I have another question here. You know, in Kerala, in Cherthurthi, we have the National Institute for Panchakarma, you know, CCRAS. What do we do with organizations like this? You know, how to connect them with what Pawanji has in mind in Calcutta? What is the role that we have for these CCRAS institutions? What is the change we want there in these places? In your opinion, you have seen these more than I have.
I will tell the CCRA should be connected with all these institutions, colleges. It should not be simply a separate body sitting over there and doing their researches and publishing their papers and etc. They should connect it with each college, each department. This college department teachers also should involve in their projects directly or indirectly in such a way. So certainly the research aptitude of the pupil of this college's faculty will be increasing.
The research, you use the correct expression, research aptitude, this is completely missing in that.
Yes, research aptitude is actually missing. Yes,
it must start very.
Collective research aptitude is missing. Every department wanted to do their own publication, their own things. See, it will not solve a big problem, because I told you.
I'm hoping, Ramdasji, that what Pawanji has in mind for this international independent research ethics group I am hoping that this will be another catalyst in bringing this change, although this is a very, very new initiative, but I'm hoping that we can bring that spirit into this, the general discussion. And people like Pawanji are very important because they have seen the whole spectrum, from having studied Ayurveda with a family heritage in Ayurveda in one part of the country, in Madhya Pradesh. They have gone and worked in another part of the country for many decades, and they have, set up large networks of clinics around the country. They have worked hard to produce a huge number of products. So I'm hoping that we will all be inspired by all the minds that are here. We are so lucky to have so many exciting people who are here with us, and the richness that Baswati ji brings into our discussions, the international exposure that can be given to our young students. And I don't want to miss out. I want to bring Srinivas ji a little bit. Srinivas ji, because Srinivas ji is taking us into Telangana. Jagdishwar ji is here from Telangana. I want Srinivas ji, please give us some comments on what you've heard so far on.
Sorry, I couldn't be able to follow the entire discussion, but since we are on the way back to our cluster, whatever I heard, to bring Ayurveda into the
villages, masses, yeah.
We are trying to implement. We are trying to.
Srinivas ji, I'm going to. Srinivas ji, your network is.
Yes. There is some problem, sir. Since we are traveling.
No mind. We'll bring you back once your line is a bit stable, just for the sake of saving time and getting a few more thoughts from a few other people here. Baswati ji, would you like to add something to what has come out? Any thoughts, any comments before I bring in Rajiv?
I do want to bring in some thoughts, but they're very controversial, and I'm not at all a controversial person. So
we like that. We like to hear that, because this is a place where you can.
And I'd like to hear what Professor Ramadas and Dr. Bishnupriya think of this. So I've trained at really good schools in the US, Princeton, Penn, Columbia, Harvard. I'm now at Cornell. And I've seen a lot of, and Chicago. And I then went to PHU, and I really am shocked that we are talking about research. Either people don't know, or it's the pink elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. And I think we need to mention that pink elephant. There is a lot of falsification that happens in research in India. There is a lot of people who are overlooking the kinds of things we know, like we know that people are taking shortcuts when making medicines, or they're not going for the right source of raw material. And so they cannot validate that raw material, but they're still using it because karna hai, chalta hai, ye to are ya pass hona hai, just kar lijiye, काफी pharmaceutical companies so ye karte hai to hamare bhi karenge aur kuch kya bolenge koi. And there's a lot of cheating. In addition to that, the people that are supposed to be what Dr. Jha calls the custodians. The day I got my PhD, he said, Bashwati, now that you have the degree, whatever your level of knowledge is, now that you have the degree, you are a custodian of the actual sanctity and honest vidya of Rasa Shastra. It is your duty to make sure that if someone does something that is against that vidya, the satya, the truth of what it is, needs to be not judged, but needs to be held by you. And so I have tried, when I see things that are cheating badge, to speak about it, and it has made me incredibly a target of people. They think I'm trying to destroy their careers. I'm not even talking about the politics of egos. I'm just talking about the research. I was demanded by force to falsify data on my PhD thesis. And it's one of the reasons I have such huge conflicts during my PhD, because I kept saying, Sir, maine just fill in the columns, bahut samay ho gaya, fill in the columns. I said, Sir, main kaise fill in karungi? Patient to nahi aaya. So this kind of stuff needs to stop, because what it does is it creates not only ethical, huge problems, but I can tell you about Kolkata, I can tell you in Gujarat, I can tell you in Maharashtra, I can certainly tell you in Karnataka and in Kerala and in BHU. I have been around the country. I am not an insular person. I've been north, south, east, and west, and I've talked with people in modern medicine and all health sciences. There's a lot of cheating going on. And when I review PhD theses, a few of them are really good, but most of them have a lot of falsified data. And if you want details, we should talk about it.
The point that you've raised overlaps with all the issues that are surfacing here. And I want to bring Dr. Rajiv Kurele. Rajiv ji has been with us on many of our webinars, and he contributes a lot on our webinars on many ideas. Rajiv ji studied Ayurveda in Uttarakhand. Rajiv ji, namaskar. Rajiv ji. And Rajiv ji is very deeply involved in all of these aspects of clinical trials and education of students. Rajiv ji, namaskar. Rajiv ji. Rajiv ji is not here. I'll wait for Rajiv ji, because he always has a very great, he gives us a lot of clarity in how to do some of these things that you're talking about, Pastor. We also have Shibani Mukherjee. Shibani ji, namaskar. Shibani ji. Pawan ji, shayad Rajiv ji ki आवाज.
Rajiv ji, am I audible to you?
Shibani ji, namaskar. Vijay, can you hear me?
No, sir.
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, good.
Yes, everybody can hear you, sir. Shivani is from my team.
Okay, Shibani is from your team. So I don't know, Shibani ji, whether you have some comments. I want to particularly hear Rajiv ji, because what we've been discussing, Bhaswati, just to give you the background, and in some of our earlier discussions where Rajiv ji was there and he presented, we said we must take Uttarakhand Ayurved University and see if we can base a center of learning there in Uttarakhand, in this beautiful place. We're setting up a center there. And I was hoping, if Rajiv ji is here with us, whether he could share a few thoughts.
With your kind permission, in the meantime, sir, I would like to communicate regarding tomorrow's webinar.
Hanji, please, all yours.
Tomorrow is World Braille Day. World Braille Day means the manuscript for blinds. So we have invited ophthalmologist of Ayurveda for Ayush prevention of blindness. Here, Professor Haridra Dave, Professor and Head JS Ayurvedic Mahavidyalaya, Nadiyad will be there. Dr. P.K. Shanta Kumari, Founder and Chief Physician, Mata Ayurvedic Eye Hospital, Chairperson, Mata Ayurved Healthcare Private Limited, Kerala. And then Dr. Ganesh M. Jadhav, he will be there from Ark Ayurveda, Pune. All are the experts of ophthalmology in Ayurveda. This is our effort to support the Ayush therapy also and communicate the message that we are there also to support for prevention of blindness. Yes, sir. Kindly continue.
Thank you. Pawanji, thank you. No, wonderful. It's a lovely idea. I hope we will get to learn more about the Ayurvedic aspects of ophthalmology. There are major problems like diabetic retinopathy, macular degeneration. These are all areas where I feel Ayurveda has a lot to offer. And if I can get Rajiv ji,
Okay, sir.
Rajiv ji, नमस्कार. अगर राजीव जी नहीं हो
तो कंक्लूड करें सर.
हाँ जी,
जगदीश्वर जी है लास्ट.
जगदीश्वर जी की आने से पहले थोड़ा सा अगर विष्णुप्रिया जी से कुछ और, अगर विष्णुप्रिया जी अगर आपसे कुछ हो, then I want to quickly get some words. विजय कैरोलिन बार्सिलोना से अगर आपकी तरफ से कुछ, विजय जी, if you have something, and also Ramadas ji, please, if you have last few words for us before I bring our senior guide, Jagdishwar ji from Telangana. Caroline, would you have something to add to what you have heard today about, because you have also studied in a government Ayurveda college in Trivandrum, one of the oldest Ayurveda colleges in the country. Please tell us, can you push us a little further in our thinking what we have reached here a little bit?
Thank you. Apart from studying Ayurveda, I have also got a post-graduation from University of Barcelona in drug research.
Okay.
So that is like a place like Spain. The country itself is totally hijacked by Western medicine. We don't allow any other alternate medicine to work. And so basically what I understand is we have to have this is a good initiative to identify how an Ayurvedic drug research has to be formulated, because what Dr. Bishnupriya had touched, had explained, was the whole scientificity of Ayurveda. Because even if you give the same medicine to different people in different parts of the country or different parts of the world, based on the place where they are, the effectiveness can change, even if it is on the same. And this has all been addressed in Ayurveda. But when we come to using that in the format of a Western drug research, none of them is taken into account. So a very effective medicine, according to Ayurveda, will be turning out to be clinically and technically non-effective, because most of the parameters are not being addressed or not being put into study. So if we are able to make a drug research which could include all these fine variables, and then we could make a research possible, then definitely it could bring an outcome where all of our medicines can be proved functioning clinically and scientifically.
Vijayji, we are looking forward to help from people like yourselves to guide the growth of this new initiative. You have a lot of experience in Europe. You know the issues there. You have trained in Europe. So please be with us and guide us through this growth. And when you connect with people like Bishnupriya ji, there is a good resonance. You resonate in thinking. You resonate in experience. So I wish you to be with us. Please join us in future events. I just want to quickly go to Bishnupriya ji for Bishnupriya.
I would like to request Sir Caroline ji to share his phone number, WhatsApp number in the chat box, please.
Please put your
Srinivas ji and Caroline ji. So I will be able to communicate him regularly.
Okay, thank you. I will also
want to invite him as the speaker in next webinar
too. Okay, very good. विष्णुप्रिया जी, आपकी तरफ से अगर कुछ और आज की जो टॉपिक के ऊपर जो चर्चा हुआ उसके ऊपर अगर आपकी तरफ से कुछ और हो जी सोच, आपने तो सही बताया कि थोड़ा और होनी चाहिए वो टर्शरी लेवल रिसर्च वाला लोकेशंस. अगर कुछ और, अगर you are in a very pretty beautiful part of the country, जैसे एक तरफ है उत्तराखंड और आप बैठे हैं गोवा में, how can we leverage these locations to excite students to come and do good work with us and to really take forward the beauty of Ayurveda?
We can start a branch of your education, your institutions here.
Hari Om.
That's a
Thank you,
shortcut
Ji.
way.
Perfect. I think Pawanji has made a note of this already, that a branch of this group will be located in Goa. And thank you, Bishnupriya ji. We will continue this discussion because this is a long discussion and many, many ideas have to come out. I think Baswati ji has left us. And I think, Pawanji, if I could take your permission to request our senior most colleague today, Doma ji, Jagdishwar ji, please join us to share your concluding remarks and comments, ji.
Madan ji.
Namaskar ji, namaskar.
Namaskar. I am very thankful to you carrying on to the discussion. But I am not so qualified to get involved in the discussion of this high level tendency. But for the fact what I am practically putting in front of you, that the day when a boy calls on me from US asking sir to help us little bit, that my baby is suffering from pinching pains in the fingertips and tips of the finger of the hand, palm and feet, and it is continuing at least once in a week or once in a month, I am not remembering, and she will roll on in the room, and life and death condition we used to observe. Then I asked that what was the diagnosis of the physicians there at the US. Then the boy replied, sir, every doctor whosoever is related to this condition, we have consulted, and almost all have come to the conclusion that it is nothing but psychological disease. It is nothing but psychological. Did you take your child to baby who is aged about 7 or 8 years at that condition when she was suffering? Yes, sir, 1 or 2 times, because it will not be afterwards, she will be all right. That also done, sir. Then on that occasion also, in that condition also, in their observation also, what was the diagnosis of the patients there? Then they said that the lab disclosure is no disease pointed out. That is why we don't say that it is a disease. It is nothing but psychological. But the baby was suffering. Then immediately I asked that, my boy, I am very sorry, I cannot prescribe you medicine to those people who are outside of India. And even according to the rules of my age qualification, there was a line that you are supposed to practice in your own state only. If those rules are followed, I think that I'm a quack. I'm a quack. And this boy, he consults me. Then I asked, I'm very sorry, I cannot prescribe you medicine because after the Michael Jackson case. Then simply I asked that, you tell me what will be your diet. Then that boy explains, sir, what that diet will be in states? All fast food. Then I saw that, how do you don't have kitchen and all those things? Sir, this is the 23rd year running in US, my career. When MCA he did and he went to US. Before even BTech and all this. Then I asked that, how do you depend on only fast foods? Sir, fast foods only. You are not putting up with your family? Then he told, sir, once in a month also she doesn't cook. Then I asked that, being with such condition, and you ask me something medicine, you call on your wife. then, sir, it will be very far from our working place and residential place and clinical area, very far. I will call on her, sir, after going to. Then immediately ask that if today onwards only, if you say that fast food, I'll not going to give you advice. Sir, we will stop. Immediately I asked that whatever fast food you are consuming, that doesn't have any combination of such with which controls vata accumulation. That is why you are suffering. Immediately I asked that boy, take one spoon of garlic. That means one piece will be there. That is to be called in Telangana area and nearby Karnataka. That yakelipayadu. Elipayadu means villulli. That means lasu. Single piece of license like onion. It will be. If it is available, take it and crush it and take 1 spoon of that garlic juice added to that garlic juice of honey. Let it be consumed only once in a day, empty belly, not afterwards itself. After a week or 10 days, it was quite all right. Even till to this day, that didn't happen. Neither I have seen the patient, nor I have used any medicine. Afterwards only, this happened with this babe at States. And another case, a bank officer in Hyderabad who is high officer to inspect all the banks of SBI, branches of SBI. And there, his colleague, who is having relation with Mahabubnagar, my friendly advocate, whose sister is given to that officer, married. Then he was suffering from pains in the body, and his creatinine is high, and uric acid is high, and I'm not remembering everything. And he just issued a long leave for 3 months and kept himself confined to home. And after all the urologists and all the physicians whomsoever they have consulted, his creatinine has not come down, and uric acid is not controlled, in spite of many allopathic specialists. And this advocate, who is brother-in-law of that officer, he comes to me and asks that, sir, please help for this, my brother-in-law. He is officer, like this, it is going on. Then I asked Mr. Shastri, does your law permit the patient is not in front of the physician and can diagnose? How can it be, sir? He cannot stand itself. And just put him in car and bring it. No, sir, it will not be possible. Sir, just you tell me. After a little recovery, I will ask him to come. I thought that wonderful, this thing. Then Mr. Shastri, it will be a little difficult. Sir, whatever it may be, please, sir, he will purchase in Hyderabad medicines, whatever you prescribe. And I told that I will not at all prescribe. Simply I say that your law does not permit if anything happens wrong. That's why I asked your brother-in-law to consume only this much, what I advise him to. Fresh juice of amalaki. And the second thing is amruta. Tinospora cordifolia and Emilica maravillosa. These fresh juices should be consumed. First, actually, should be put onto the tongue early after cleaning mouth. This amalaki, Emilica maravillosa. Later on, Tinospora cordifolia. But it will not be tasty putting like that. You just ask him to reverse it according to his taste. First bitter one and later on amalaki. That is means it will not be so much disturbing. Ask him to take regularly 1 cup like that for a week. Let us see. After a week, his creatinine started coming down, and simply after a week or 10 days, he started going to the office. He has not seen my face and I have not seen his face. These are the practicals which happened. And later on, he asked that his colleague was coming to inspect our SBI here in Mahavidyalaya, and he brought his wife and asking that every day after his inspection in the evening at about 5 or 6 o'clock in that road, SBI road, he asked that, who is Dr. Jagadishwar Ayurvedic here? Then everybody was telling that, sir, we don't know, sir. In the same area only where my building is there, SBI area. Sir, we don't know, sir. And up to clock tower area, he inquired, and later on he inquired. At last, the third day, 4 days inspection was there. And on the third day, he was thinking that nobody is giving address of Dr. Jagadishwar Ayurvedic. Then it may not be possible to find him out. Just by my side, a homeopathic doctor who is putting up, and I asked him to put up homeopathic clinic there, and where I will be Ayurvedic and he will be homeopathic, it will be better to the modern medicine alternation. He consulted, that officer consulted, sir, who is Dr. Jagadishwar here, Ayurvedic? Then he told that name is not prevailing in this area. Nobody is. The fourth day morning, he was fed up with the inquiry and asking them in the bank, in the midst of the bank staff, Are, who is that Dr. Jagadishwar? Just to find him out. A bench clerk or some cashier, he asked, sir, you come, I will send Vishnu, the attender, to take you to Dr. Jagadishwar. Then he comes and coming to my clinic, he explains, sir, coming to concluding, need not worry. Asking that, sir, you please display your board, very big one, which should be. There is place, it is being encroached by the Hotel Fellows Board. What should I do? I am here for the last 50 years. Everybody knows. Sir, just by your side, the homeopathic doctor is being inquired yesterday. He told that that name is not dwelling in that. Likely it is going on. After that, he says that, sir, without seeing my colleagues' face and not even visiting, just you have proved with little taking these ingredients. Sir, I said that I did my chance like that only, because I totally depend that while my practice also going, just putting my leg outside of my precedence, going to the clinic, I say that, hey Paramatman, whomsoever you wish to, you send them. And I don't think that I will practice. I know. You will be practicing through me. I'm not the practitioner. This much only, because my Gurudeva has taught how to surrender to Paramatman and do your work. That mantra I take and get out. Till this day also my career is like that. With this little conclusion, I thank you very much and happen to listen from Bishnupriya ji because the timings was not known, was not to my knowledge. That is why I lately joined.
But
thank you very much.
Jagdishwar ji, the recording is there for you to view. Bishnupriya ji has given us so many challenges today, and she has taken us deep into many, many aspects of Ayurveda, where we need to become a little more perceptive and more sensitive to how we approach understudy for Ayurveda. And Ramdas ji has put so many things in the chat box. I will preserve this, the chats, that very rich additions. The only people we missed out today is Rajiv ji from Uttarakhand. I hope we will catch Rajiv ji again in one of the future events. With those few, Vijay.
Madan ji, very well, Madan ji.
Please.
Just now I heard that from Australia, that case, some Manasamitra Vatakam was prescribed to a babe of 7 years.
Yes.
That I heard.
Yes.
Immediately I inquired my baby who is in my clinic, because she is also Dr. BMS. She is BMS. I am Vaidya Vidwan of those days which BMS was not putting up. This is my condition. That is why my baby is being educated to the extent of BAMS, and later on she joined JSS MD for Rasa Shastra, and there was a big fight in between the head of the department and my baby, and she left. Likely it happened. Of course, immediately I inquired. See that baby of Nagarjuna, take over that Nagarjuna catalog and see that many heavy metals are there. But the combination of Manasamitra Vatakam is not supposed to be prescribed for a babe of 7 years. Perfectly, I challenge it. Because how is it a great practice? Having that combination too. There are, sir, Madanji, there is clearly in Ayurvedic section classification of which and which medicine should be given to the below 12 years. That means not adult. And which medicine should be prescribed above the 12 years. Even for babes also. There is a tradition in Andhra area that on one day, the assistant professor of gynecology in Kurnool Medical College Hospital, she comes and inquires while I was in Kurnool. She inquires that, sir, Balasuryodayam is there? Sir, Balasuryodayam is there? Then I asked that, which Balasuryodayam? Kanaka Balasuryodayam or Vanta Balasuryodayam? Then she asked, sir, just I know, sir, but Balasuryodayam only. I am assistant professor in Kurnool Medical College Hospital, sir, gynecology. Sir, please help me. Then I asked that, see, Balasuryodayam, how did you come to know? That, sir, our traditional people used to provide, they used to give that Balasuryodayam right from after 6 months like that. To the babe, newborn, Balasuryodayam, it is that tradition. Then I immediately asked that, is it? Do you believe, madam, do you believe being a assistant professor in gynecology in Kurnool Medical College Hospital, do you believe Ayurveda? Sir, excellently it works. Excellently. My traditional generations together they used to provide. They used to give to babies. Then I congratulated sir. Madam, which you are inquiring, it is Vanta Balasuryodayam, not Kanaka Balasuryodayam. Vanta Balasuryodayam, it improves the general health of the babe, and with all bhasmas, it is the combination of bhasmas, Abra bhasma, Kanta bhasma, and like that, all bhasmas only, bhasma combination. Usually the children should be prescribed in bhasma combination only, not even Rasayana combinations much. If they are clearly mentioned in Rasayana Shastra, that these are the categories of the children, then only. What nonsensical Manasamitra Vatakam is prescribed to 7 years baby. And going on to a case which brings a dirty name, bad name to the system itself.
I think Jagdishji, your point is very well taken here, that what we want is not for Ayurveda to be brought into this state of disfame, if you call it, but control the practitioners, teach the practitioners correctly, and hopefully this the initiative here in Calcutta will bring those higher skills at whatever level into practice. Vijayji, if you want to quickly add before we wind this down, the floor is yours. If you want, that is a question. The comment made by Jagdishwarji is very important. You know, I don't know what the Kerala tradition is. I don't know for pediatric.
Yeah, myself also, I stay with the comment of Jagdishji, because I was also totally surprised when it was given for a small kid. But it seems like it is a very common practice nowadays to advise Manasamitra Vadakam for developmental disorders in children. So, and there is a small type of studies going on which supports that. I am totally not comfortable with this thing, but what has turned out is anyway giving a wrong signal that it is causing toxicity.
This might be one of the points that we can raise when Pawanji makes a timetable for Autism Day this year somewhere. I think this point could come out. Jagdishwarji, thank you so much for raising this.
Madanji, very well, very well. Vijayji, I'm worried.
Yes.
I'm very sorry that with this case only, you should not come to the conclusion of toxicity. The prescription fundamentally was wrong to a babe, and later on take up to the manufacturing section whether toxicity was there.
Well, in the lab report from India, the medicine was not having any lead, but in the patient, the blood level was high in lead. So this is very, it was, first of all, it's surprising because the combination does not have lead in it. It does
Perfectly. Just now I consulted my babe.
These are worrying things, and I hope all these issues will stay active on our table here. And when we come back again, we will get a chance to explore, Jagdishwarji, we will explore all of these issues. These are the difficulties, and these are the issues that we are trying to fight with in this new initiative that Pawanji and colleagues have established in Calcutta. All these are the cases that we need to revisit and analyze and help improve so that we arrive at a new status for Ayurveda, new status for formulations, new status for clinical studies, new status for good clinical practice. And it will come through as we discuss these kind of issues. So with those...
Madanji, very well.
Please.
Sorry for the interruption.
Please, Jagdishwarji, please.
Just I heard of who has participated on an occasion. There was a conversation between our Agnihotriji, and I do not take that name, in between, that that was the communication that she provided during Corona period, Abrak Basma with Tripala Chodna. I couldn't get convinced with the combination, because generally Abrakavasma should be combined with Trikataka Chodna or Chausasti Prahari Pippali Chodna. But never it should be, it will be, how I do not know how can it be useful, how does it be useful with the Tripala Chodna. Tripala Chodna combination of Emlic Malevolent, Tibulic Malevolent, and another, that is I'm forgetting, Haritaki, Vibhitaki, Amalaki. These three. With this combination of Abrakabasma, what to serve? If it is put with the Trikataka Chuna, it affects a lot. It's a purposefully. How could it be the combination? Though I will be very much feared of putting up name.
So these are all the kind of issues that we will bring on. We will keep these on the table. We will raise them again and again and generate the consensus, and then lead towards good clinical studies, good clinical research, and understand the mechanisms behind these things. Jagdishwarji, you have given us so many things to think about today. I think Pawanji is wanting to draw this event, the discussion, to a close. I take your permission, Domaji. We will continue this discussion. Thanks to Bishnupriya ji for being with us. Vijay, thank you for being with us. And Srinivas ji, thank you so much for being with us today. Srinivas ji, I have shared your telephone number to Pawanji. He might want to bring you back in one of the future events, yes, so that you can share your insights from your work in Telangana and your work in NCR, in the National Capital Region, and all the good work that you're doing to take what Bishnupriya ji wants to connect Ayurveda with the villages. So with those few words, I thank everybody for so many rich contributions today. I have copied it the text. I've taken all the information from the text, especially Ramadas ji. So I want to thank Bishnupriya ji.
Madanji, very for research thing I am giving little
Please.
information.
Please.
There is a reputed hospital, even I say it is reputed to the extent of in Asia, Long Asia, Asian Institute of Gastroenterology, Asian Institute of Gastroenterology. Dr. Nageshwar Reddy, he comments that a patient, he is principal of Polytechnic College, that you will not survive, your life maybe for a span of 3 or 4 months. 3 or 4 months on the face of the patient who is a principal. Then he is friendly to me and he comes and consults and gives us all the details. And I didn't see his reports also. Just, and at last I diagnosed and gave treatment. He was all right. After that he tells me that जगदीश्वर जी मैं एक बात बताऊं आपको कि मैं जो है ना एशियन इंस्टीट्यूट ऑफ गैस्ट्रोएंटरोलॉजी नागेश्वर रेड्डी के पास गया था, उन्होंने बोले 4 महीने से ज्यादा जीते नहीं, दिएंगे नहीं। तो मैं आपके पास आ करके जो है ना चिकित्सा लिया, नाउ आई एम ऑल राइट करके बोला। मैं सीधा उनको इतना ही बताया। मैं तो आपके समाचार ना तो रिपोर्ट देखा ना कुछ देखा, आपके जो बताए सो उसी से डायग्नोस करके आपको इलाज करा। लेकिन आप इतना ही मेहरबानी कीजिए कि जाके नागेश्वर रेड्डी से मेरे से बात कराइए। Simply I told that. Then he went to Dr. Nageshwar Reddy and gave it. And sir, and now I am all right. Whereas after 6 months like that, now I am all right. I am surviving. You commented that I will not be for life more
than 6 months.
More than 3 or 4 months. 3 or 4 months. Now I am alive, sir. I took Ayurvedic medicine, sir. I took Ayurvedic. My friend treated me. Does the Ayurvedic medicine work like that? Then his commentary was being carried to me. And I asked that, why didn't you hand over your mobile to Nageshwar Reddy? I would have spoken to him. You give treatment to up to the knowledge you gained. But life is given by Paramatman and life will be taken by Paramatman. You are not the commanding authority. How much capacity you have? Totally a patient or whatever the thing is run by Paramatman. Like that. One another case, which was clearly from the reports that it is splenomegaly, hepatosplenomegaly, and the patient is totally collapsed. And sir, little one. After that, we gave treatment. That patient was all right, and who had come across in one marriage function with a scientist who is researching in the States in the same department only, gastroenterology, and he both are Muslim community, and that research scholar, he is referring his case sheet and saw our prescription, gone through our prescription and the report of Asian Institute, all those things. That research scholar himself simply disclosed that your Ayurvedic treatment is more better than our modern medicine, and you continue that. You continue. There is no extent of that treatment in a modern medicine.
We need more we need more input and guidance from senior people like yourself. So we look forward to more of these kind of cases, case studies, case stories, so that it can inspire us to improve our thinking, our research direction, all of those areas where there is a big gap. And when we started, I said there were big gaps in our area. And hopefully this new initiative that Pawanji has started will bring together people like all of us, and along with the community, to look at community level problems, to give innovative solutions for the future, and to take forward the beauty of these, of the sciences that we have. Pawanji,
Nothing more, Madanji. I will take a notebook and sit in front of Bishnupriya. I will sit in front of Bishnupriya and you people.
I leave it with Pawanji now to Pawanji. Thank you for keeping.
Thank
So
you,
keep-
thank you very much to
Another-
all, sir.
Pawanji, another amazing discussion, and it's so lovely to get these frank, quick ideas from everybody. And it is
Right,
especially
sir.
Bishnupriya ji has really inspired us today, like always, taking us into asking some simple questions, challenging questions, and then opening everything up so beautifully. Bishnupriya ji, we look forward
Concluding
to more.
remarks, I would like to request again to Dr. Agnihotri ji.
Agnihotri ji,
He joined.
Agnihotri ji,
Agnihotri ji,
namaskar.
स्वागतम.
लगता है
नमस्कार
आप गाड़ी में हो अभी भी
जी सर
पहुंचा नहीं बनारस.
Valedictory remarks from Agnihotri ji. Yeah.
and thank you sir. Arey, how can I couldn't hear this today because of some
You can
disturbances.
communicate vote of thanks, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much, our respected Madan sir, and today's great speakers, including our Bishnupriya madam, our VP Sharma sir from Guwahati. You have narrated all the details of this GMP practices and its modalities belonging to the possibilities of the failure and success. So let us come forward, especially for the interest of the students, that newcomers, how they would like to, or they should like to go for the practice, so that there should not be any hard time for them. So with these words, my thanks to each and every person, and good wishes to all the speakers, and for success. Thanks to Dr. Pawan Sharma for their this today's valuable webinar. That is 278, I think.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Valuable blessings from
Thank
your
you. Thank you. Okay. Good night.
We will be completing 300 in this month only. Thank you.
Sure. Why not? The power which you have with you, and the speed which you carry, you will reach to that success, that destination.
And the blessings I have from you, all great souls.
You have kept your all senior persons and persons capable to give you blessings in your pockets.
Thank you.
Salute, sir.
Thank you.
Salute, sir.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Meeting you tomorrow.
Agnihotri ji, wish you a successful stay in BHU. Ji, namaskar.
Hari Om.